Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Epiphany podcast. And actually, today we are going to talk a little bit about the rebrand because I know a lot of you guys were asking me about that. But I was waiting for this specific pod to talk about that. But I'm your host, George Valencia. And before we start, I want to tell you guys about our new and exciting sponsor and member of the Epiphany family. Ladies and gentlemen, today's new and exciting sponsor is Cuvado, the ultimate brand for all of your simplistic accessory needs. With a laser focus on simplicity and quality, Cuvado brings you an elegant product that enhances your style effortlessly. But that's not all. Cuvado also believes in giving back. They donate 10% of all proceeds to charitable causes. So not only can you elevate your look, but you can also make a positive impact. It's a fantastic opportunity to support me and a brand that not only embraces simplicity, but also strive for a positive change. Don't miss out on Cuvado's exceptional accessories. Visit their website today or click the link in the description and use code JCREATES at checkout to enjoy a 20% discount on your order. Now let's get back to the show. We believe in following your dreams, pursuing your passion, and showcasing our guest gift. He's an independent online music publication and entertainment music media company. Hopefully I did that right. Also, one of the inspirations of the Epiphany podcast. Without our guest, the Epiphany podcast probably wouldn't happen. So with that being said, everyone, Dante Pellegrino, how you doing, bro?
Thank you, man. That was a beautiful intro.
Thank you, man. It's a fucking mouthful, bro.
Yeah, you get the sponsor in there, and then you go into the little intro pocket. I literally have a 2-word intro. I commend that. That was amazing what you just did.
Music matters.
Yeah, I literally just go, music matters.
Okay. Speaking of sponsors, let's talk a little bit about that. Kenzo from Digi. Well, how did that happen? Who is that?
Shout out to Ken. I love that guy. I actually now, it's funny you say that. I gotta call him after this actually.
Really?
But yeah, I love Kenzo, man. Kenzo is the creative director and founder of Digi San Francisco, which is like a designer brand in San Francisco. And I met Ken just like through the scene. I don't know if I don't know exactly like when I met Kenzo, but it was like somewhere at some show, like within like when I first really got into the Bay Area hip hop scene. I think it was through the Strife guys. It was through like Chucky and Zan and all those guys. I met Kenzo through them because I fully remember now actually. Now it's all coming back to me. I fully remember. It was the night that we announced our very first show, which was like over a year ago, over like a year and a half at this point. And he like saw the flyer and he had like reached out and he was just like, I've been watching from afar. I love what you guys do for like the Bay Area.
I love the beanies, bro. Those beanies are
right?
sick, dude.
Yeah.
I need to cop one of those things, dude.
Yeah, they're super sick. But yeah, he reached out and he was like, hey, like I love what you guys do for the Bay Area. I love what you do for Bay Area music. And he was just a fan. And then we just became like, I was a fan of his music.
Yeah.
And we just kind of became friends, mutual friends that way. And then we just started hanging out. Because I mean, that like Bay Area hip hop, like clique area, underground scene, whatever you want to call it. It's very close, like very tight knit, very.
It's
close.
like I was talking to Sandro about that, and it's like a web, bro.
Yeah, totally.
Like, even in LA, bro, like one person knows everybody, and then it's just like all interconnected in some way.
Yeah, 100%, which is really cool because like it was weird. Like it's weird to like identify it as a community, but like I don't even think I realized fully until I was like really in it, how big of a community that it like is. But I met Ken kind of through all those people. And then he was doing a lot of stuff with Grimrose at the time, which is his other brand that he still works with. But, I mean, he was kind of telling me at that time, like, how he wanted to progress with Digi and, like, what he wanted to do with Digi and how he wanted to market it and just the ways that he was thinking about launching this kind of new venture that he wanted to do around that time. And I was really inspired by it because I don't even think I've realized this fully till, like, recently, but I think I'm very interested in, like, marketing. And like
yeah.
Like I didn't think I realized like it was weird to put a word on it.
Yeah.
But I was with a friend recently and she was like, like what if you got a marketing degree? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that
going back to school.
I don't know if I would, but yeah, it's weird to like put a label on it. But yeah, I realized I was like interested in marketing and the way that Ken kind of looks at getting people into his brand was super fascinating to me right off the bat. Like I just love the idea of like looking at products and seeing how those products essentially why people would give a fuck about what you're doing. Yeah. Like that is like what marketing is to me. Yeah. It's like, why should somebody give a shit about what you're doing, what you're making, what you're creating, what you're putting out into the world? It's like, I think there's so many brands and so many people out there who like just market things in ways that are incredibly unrelatable to the average human being. And like in a world where our attention span is so crazy, quick, bro. It's like you can't ask somebody to like listen to something that they don't understand for more than 13 seconds.
Yeah, literally.
So it's like I was very interested in the way that Ken was kind of pushing these beanies onto just like this scene. Like he wanted these things to kind of be an iconic
like a staple of the
yeah,
scene,
exactly. Like kind of like a physical touch of like or a physical product that kind of exemplified like what was happening in the Bay Area underground, and I loved that idea. So I mean, once he kind of I saw that was his vision and saw like I just loved the product as well, and then we became friends, and it made sense. So they sponsor us now. We work with them very closely, but
is it one of those things where it's like using a code in a sense of a sponsor, or is like how does that work for you? Because like for us with Cuvado, it's like a percentage base. Obviously, like they use my code type deal. Like how does that work for you then?
So I guess what you have is a far more like traditional structure for like a podcast model than a podcast sponsor. But like cause I mean we work like other companies too. Like with Digi, the thing with them is like it's very very just straightforward. Like we just wear it's a more or less a product placement. A product placement sponsorship. So we just wear their stuff. We put like a tiny 2-second ad in the beginning of every interview. Yeah. It literally is just like the Digi logo flashing before the interview, and that's all we do. And then it's just like
it's very minimal marketing.
Yeah, and then they help us out financially because of that. And I mean that's very much like on brand for them. Yeah. Like their marketing is very minimal, very I don't know if mysterious is the right word, but very like
Let it speak for itself.
Speak for itself. Yeah, exactly. It's like he wants like the people he kind of just trusts the people that we bring on the show. Okay. And because of that, he thinks they're good people to represent the brand. So, we give them beanies, we wear beanies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I see like the Kid Lords rock them sometimes too.
Yeah. I mean, they're a gigantic part of that scene. Shout out to them.
Shout out the Kid Lords.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, they were like very much like a big part of like what I think the foundations of like me getting into that scene in the early days were. Yeah.
Like in the Bay Area or just in general?
In the Bay Area, for sure. It was interesting because I found them.
I know.
So I was watching a Hive Mind live stream. Yeah. Do you know Shalom?
Yeah, shout out Shalomi the homie.
Shalom. I love that guy, man. But he submitted their song, and I was just in my room randomly in Concord, like on a night. I remember I was doing music theory homework. Okay. And I had like on my second monitor, the Hive Mind live stream going where they would submit the songs, and I just kind of had it. I was like passively listening to it, and they submitted a Kid Lord Shlomi submitted a Kid Lord song. Yeah. And I remember it was Star Dance, and I heard it and I was just blown away, and I was like, what the fuck? And then I remember in the video they're at a gas station, and I saw one of the background. You could see the gas price. And it was like $6, and I was like, "Oh, they're from the Bay."
This one was insane, bro.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, they're from the Bay." So I reached out. Yeah. And then we just we started talking. We did the interview, and then from them, they told me about Strife, I believe, and then Strife introduced me to a ton of people. Mm. It was very much like I just got into the scene that way. I mean, with the interviews and stuff, like in the early days, I was just constantly like, every single time I had an interview, I would ask the guest after the interview, I'd be like, can I have a list of like every interesting collaborator, producer, or person you ever work with that you think would be interesting to talk to? Oh, shit. So they would just send me a list, and then I would just go through the entire list, and I would hit up every single one. So I did that, and that kind of created this web very, very quickly. Yeah. Where like it made me think a lot about like the 6 degrees of separation theory, because it was like I was meeting so many people that I probably shouldn't have been meeting, but it was just like because I had found one person that in some way, shape, or form they were connected to all these other people. So like it's really weird to think about, but like like for example, like a weird tree would be like I met the Kid Lords because of a Hive Mind live stream one random night. Because of them, I met the Strife guys. Because of the Strife guys, I met Afterthought. Because of Afterthought, I met all the Family United Group guys. Yeah. Because of them, I booked them on a show. Because of that show, I met Gerald from Brick and Mortar. I got a close relationship with them. I then started throwing shows at the New Parish. And it's just like a big network of like, if you're a good person, people will like working with you. And it's like, if you keep talking and keep your name in every conversation and just lead with genuineness, I think, is like the biggest thing in that regard. It's like you should never be in the business of making connections. You should be in the business of making friends. You know?
Yeah, I love that, especially like on the topic of Kid Lords. Like, them and Dro, their like statement that they always say, "Get in where you fit in."
Yeah, I love that. Dude, I love they say that. Yeah,
and they said that like I've never felt something so real in the sense of like I've never fit in this town, right? For example, and it's like
I want to talk to you about Los Banos because I don't understand it.
okay, well, we'll get into a little bit about that. So get in where you fit in, right?
Uh-huh.
And you know how they say like if you feel like you belong and all of those things, right? So when I started getting introduced to that scene over there through Sandro, that's where I was like, oh, like all these are like creative like minds people. You know what I mean? And once I started the podcast, like before I felt like I didn't fit in there, right? Because I was just there for like I enjoyed the scene. And then after I felt like I had the podcast and I had a purpose to like say, hey, this is what I do. And I was bringing like value to the table, you know, it was like, I felt so much more like at peace. Does that make sense?
100%. Well, I think that's something that I talk to a lot of people about who are like kind of, I don't even like saying it this way because it makes like music or like creative industry sound like cliquey, and it you know, it can be, but it's like you have to provide value to feel inclusion, I think, at a certain point, you know, like I feel like, because I mean, dude, like I was very similar, I mean, in a different regard, but like I was just a fan of Bay Area music as a kid growing up, like going to local shows, fans of local bands, fans of local rappers, and like I was just on like the outside looking in at that, and I wanted to be a piece of it. Like I wanted to be a part of it, you know? And it's like, but you can't expect to be a part of it if you're not doing anything, you know what I mean? It's like
just like, okay.
you're just like there, and that's cool. I mean, it's totally fine to be a fan of something. That's awesome. I'm a fan of a million things, but it's like you have to kind of provide something at a certain point to have the inside and be on the inside and kind of be on that side of the coin, you know?
Yeah, and that was another thing that I still am to this day like struggling with, because I feel like Bay Area people are so good at reading people in the sense of like who's genuine, you know what I mean? And for me, coming from an outsider, I'm an hour and a half away. My only connection is Dro, right? And it's like me trying to introduce myself to these people without seeming like, oh, I want something from you. I just want to make friends, you know? And then like doing my best to portray like a genuineness, because it is real, you know?
I feel that, man.
But once I started the podcast and I tell them my mission statement, which is follow your dreams, pursue your passion, and we showcase our guest gift, right? They're like, dude, that's so fucking dope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's where it starts to like break down this social wall of like, okay, like who are you type shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I think Bay Area people are like incredibly good at reading other people. Like it's almost like to a scary degree. Like I don't know what it is about the Bay, but you're right. It's a place where it's like maybe it is because it's so damn expensive that like because I mean like living there, it's like it's like a constant struggle, I feel like, for a lot of people who like pay rent there and stuff. It's like it's you know, I never paid like full rent in the Bay Area. I like grew up there and I live with my parents, but then it was like moved to LA and now I do that. Now I'm a fully financially independent adult, so I understand it.
It's crazy, bro.
No, it's strange. It was like there's just something about that area, I think, that like makes you kind of, it's like if you're not real, like the fakeness sheds really quick, you know, because it's like you're forced to be so real because of the fact that like this is, you know, you're barely making ends meet. So it's like you don't really have time to like put up this fake persona. Like it's just, there's no bullshitting there, you know?
But I also love that too, because then it's like a breeding ground for just good people.
Totally.
Which is also kind of interesting, because I know you said like in the Bay, like not just you, but like some other guests from the Bay, that they say like, oh, there's like fake people, this and that, and it's like, of course that's everywhere, you know what I mean? Totally. But I feel like for me, I was thankful that like Dro's a scene, like that little like J-Town, like Japantown over there, that like they're great people. Like it's such a great like just environment, bro. Totally. You know what I mean? But all right. So Los Banos, what don't you understand about Los Banos?
Where is it? I don't. When I was driving here, I was like, where am I? Because like I know that it's like on. Okay, to be totally honest with you, my only understanding is that it's like on the way to LA from the Bay. Okay. So it's like, but I couldn't quite. It really is its own pocket, right? Because I thought it was like near Tracy. That's like where I thought it was, and it's not at all. Yeah. So like, where's Fresno?
Fresno's an hour that way, going towards like, where would you explain where Fresno is? To where? Yosemite. It's going towards like Yosemite.
Merced.
Yeah, it's going towards Merced. Okay. In that way. Yeah, it's funny you talk about Tracy. I was literally just watching your recent interview, the one that you just posted with the Tracy band.
Oh, Moonwave, yeah.
Yeah, Moonwave.
Shout out those guys.
Yeah, shout out Moonwave, dude. I really like what they were doing, dude.
Hell yeah.
Like they're paving their own way in Tracy because like there's nothing in Tracy, and it's funny. That's where I work.
Right? Oh, okay.
I work at Amazon in Tracy.
Okay. Damn, that's a commute.
Yeah, bro. It's like
Jesus.
I do an hour and some change there, depending on traffic, and then work to 10, and then an hour and some change back, and then here we are, bro. And it's a night shift, so it's 6 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. So
that's crazy. How has been balancing that? So how long have you like been doing the podcast now officially?
I just started like the beginning of the year.
How has the balance of that been? Like working?
It's you know what, bro? It's been like an emotional roller coaster.
I feel that
to say the least. And then I recently just got like my editor. He's the only one that's been with me from the jump. And then I brought on my writer, and then I brought on one of my lifelong like friends, and then his like one of his really close friends was also his shooter, which is going to be under his company, Imagine Way More. Shout out Imagine Way More.
Shout out Imagine Way More.
But yeah, so it's been hard, bro, honestly, because trying to balance the work, you know, trying to do all of these things, and then trying to fund it.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Like that's like, and then getting the gear you want, you know, and then it's just like, I want this, I want that, you know, like for the longest I was saving up to buy the A6400 that you have, right?
Cool.
But then my boy put me onto the A7C, I think that's what it's called.
That's I feel like that as an investment now makes way more sense. Like when I did it in 2020, I think the 64 made a lot more sense. I feel like now like a 7.3 or like any of the higher alpha line cameras are like totally perfect.
Yeah, and
I love my 64s though. Like they're so tiny and like silly, and like like the bodies I put in my pocket. I took mine to Outside.
They're so small.
They're so small. I was at Outside Lands this weekend or last weekend, I guess, and I just took the lens off my camera, put it in a bag, and I just kept the body in my pocket.
That's crazy.
Because it's that small, and I was like, "This is crazy."
Are you still using the kit lenses on those?
Yeah, I still use the kit lenses.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
And the production's so great on that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's all out of necessity,
right?
In terms of like you can do a ton with a little if you like just learn how to do it. And I mean, I'm not a cinematographer. Like I feel like now I've like recently gotten to the area where I feel more comfortable calling myself like a bit of a filmmaker, but like I definitely wasn't comfortable with that label for a long time.
Yeah.
But I just feel like I was for a long time was like a sponge and just like learned everything from everybody I was ever around. When I interviewed Mac, do you know Mac?
Is that the photographer?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I was literally just listening to that interview.
Oh, sweet. Thanks, man. Yeah. I appreciate it. But I remember when I interviewed him, he like I had like faintly understood like the exposure triangle before that point. Yeah. And then he had like fully broken it down for me like for an hour like in that shop in Daly City like when we were doing that interview and he just like fully explained this to me and gave me like the full rundown, full breakdown.
I thought it was so dope when he was talking about how he did that shoot in that chemical factory.
Yeah, man.
And then just like
he's crazy. Shout out Mac.
Dude, shout out Mac. That I was like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, he's nuts.
And then he's like, I get a thrill out of trespassing. And I was like, dude,
I was like, that's so valid. I feel.
I was like, bro. Okay, what was I saying? Yeah, so, and that's another thing that I felt like victim to, in the sense of like, originally I started this pod where I was like, okay, I want to show people that you don't need much and you can just do it, right?
Yeah, totally.
And then when I got with my editor, he's really big in that film scene, right? Like he does all of these different things. He works for our city, right?
Cool.
He does stuff for the police department. So like when he puts me onto all his stuff, I'm like, oh, I need that. I need this. I want that. And then next thing you know, like one of my my second guest, he told me, he's like, dude, you're losing track of what you started with. Like your original thing was you don't need much, and you wanted to show people you don't need much. And then next thing you know, you went down this rabbit hole. I need the cameras. I need the lights. I need the mics. It's like relax, bro. Just make do with what you got.
I feel that, but I think like, and this is like the blessing and the curse of like fully beginning to surround yourself with creative people. But it's like once you get to that point, and it's like you're around so many creative people 24/7, 365 who like have incredible amounts of gear and like are using really good equipment. It's like, I don't know, me personally, it's like I get like an anxiety sometimes where I'm like, holy shit, like this person's shooting a podcast on like a Black Magic, and I'm like, I'm shooting a podcast on A64, and it's like, does this make me less of a creative? Or like, you know, they have like Shure SM7Bs, and I'm here with like my Sterling SP150s, and I'm like, does this make me like an inferior creative because like I haven't put the money or the time in? But it's like I have put the fucking time in, just not
you fucking have.
just not the money.
But I feel like also it comes down to like something that my editor told me, like, doesn't matter the gear, it matters the story.
You use them, the story
right?
too, yeah.
So like you can have the dope ass stuff, but then if you're not really putting anything of value out there, it's just like, okay, then what's it really matter?
100%. That's the biggest thing. It's like I think recently I've been thinking a lot about, because I mean I feel like Above the Bridge is in a very transitional period right now, which is very exciting. But I think recently I've been thinking a lot about like being the face of a brand and like being a leader and like really putting yourself out there. And it's like the only thing that people will resonate is the only thing that's unique about you is your story. That's the only thing that's unique about you. Outside of that, you're the same as everybody else. But your story and like the things that you've gone through or haven't gone through is the only thing that's unique about you. So it's like if you don't use that, what are you doing? You know?
Me and Dro were just talking about you in the sense that we liked your new marketing strategy in the sense, and I just adopted that with my new reel that I did for my previous one, where it's like you're showing face of telling people like, oh, this is the new interview, check out what we're doing, and then you put like little clips in it, like that really shows face of above the bridge.
Thank
you.
Know
I mean?
I appreciate that.
I really like that too, because I was like, okay, you're not just posting a reel of the interview, it's like you're telling us who this is.
It was very I thought a lot about that. Well, because if you want to get into that, I had like it would have been like 2 or 3 months ago now. I kind of had like this. It was one. It's weird sometimes how like creative things will hit me, but it's like I'll have like weird days. But there was one day I'm sitting in my studio, and it was like right after we put out Everybody Eats, and I was kind of like excited about that, but I was thinking a lot about like I was like, okay, where am I now? Where am I going? You know, where do I stand right now? And I was like, and I feel like it just hit me randomly. I was like, because the first thing that I started thinking about, right, was like, it was like one thought that was kind of open the floodgates for a bunch more. But the first thought was kind of what I was just talking about, like being the face of a brand. And beginning to understand that like I need to be the face of the brand, and I need to stop being so insecure about like being in front of the camera, because it's like I always like, you know, like I never wanted to do the interviewing. Ever. That was, it's not like I wanted to do the interviewing. I fell in love with that. Because I love stories. If I could just like put a camera on somebody and say, like, tell your story for an hour, that's what I would do. But that's not realistic, you know? And and it's like it's like I got to the point where it's like I need to be secure with the fact like I need to be the face of this brand. And then it's like, okay, well I've kind of acknowledged that like this was an insecurity that I dealt with. How do I get past it? And then it was like, okay, what else am I not thinking about? And then I kind of had this like crazy 2-day 3-day like period in my studio where I just I sat at the interview table like this and I was just like, I had like all these pieces of paper sprawled out again on the table. Like it literally looked like I was having like a schizophrenic attack.
Okay, so really quick also too, in one of your interviews you talked about like things you put off you need to grow in, right? So is that one of the
Say that again?
Things you put off that you need to grow in,
okay,
right? Is that one of those things that you felt like with the insecurity of being in front of the camera?
Totally. I mean, it was a couple things, right? It was like I kind of went through and like I said, like I had like this crazy 3-day period where I was fully like kind of reanalyzing everything that I was doing. And one of the things was like, why? Okay, like what am I breaking? What rules am I breaking that I should not be breaking? And I was like, okay, well, one, I have to learn, and this is all like recent development. This is like my mindset right now. And it's how I think the next like year is going to move into the company. But it was like, okay, so number one, it was like, I need to be the face. There is no face. I need to be the face. I need to accept the fact that people enjoy talking to me. I need to accept the fact that I'm charismatic, because I feel like I was so like afraid of being arrogant for so long, and like afraid of like not being perceived as humble. Like I didn't want to like accept the fact that like, okay, I have like put in the work to get good at what I have, you know, what I do. So that was one thing. Another thing was like, why am I posting ads and not content? That was like when my mindset. I was like, if what I'm doing right now is like interviewing people. That's like the biggest thing that we're doing right now, right? It's like, why would I post a thumbnail of that with like a caption that's like, this is here, this is out, go watch this. Why does somebody care about that? if you're scrolling your feed and you're not already a fan of like the things that we've done,
Yeah.
why do you give a fuck? Like,
Yeah.
I was like, how do I give people a reason to care? I was like, because they're not going to care about this. So I was like, okay. I was like, no more ads, only content. I was like, every piece of content or every ad should be masked in the lens of content. So that was where I kind of came up with the idea for those trailers. And I was like, this is an ad.
Yeah.
But it feels like content.
It does.
It doesn't feel like an ad at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that's awesome. And then I was also thinking, I was like, okay, like, what am I doing right now? Like in my day to day, I was like, I'm doing interviews. Do I want to be doing that long term? Like, I mean, yeah, I love that. I love hearing people's stories, but it's like I'm a storyteller. Like there are more ways to tell stories than this. So I'm like, I need to branch out. I need to diversify. So I kind of like, that was like the other kind of big thing that I thought about. I was like, it's time to diversify. It's time to change. It's time to become a company and kind of like get away from like, I don't want Above the Bridge to be a podcast. I want Above the Bridge to be an empire. Like I want it to be very, very different than like what it's probably seen as right now. You know, it's like, what would
you feel it's seen as right now? Because to me, it's a music media company.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah, and I mean that's close. Like the labels are weird, but like I like the idea of like a media and events company, but more or less just like a hub of inspiration.
Yeah,
is like what I want Above the Bridge to be, and it's so difficult for me to explain in full because in my head it makes so much sense. But
of course, yeah,
and everybody else's, it's not going to make sense for another 8 years. You know? But it's like
let me just say because I was rewatching Love C4.
It's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give you your flowers on that, bro.
Thank you, man.
And I've I know you're gonna laugh about this one. I was looking at Thizzler. Okay, I was looking at Thizzler, right? And let me just say, I feel coming from an outsider. I'm obviously from the Central Valley, right? I feel in the coming years, your platform could be the new Thizzler in the sense of it's putting what's really going on in the Bay Area, and that sound. Even though you are in LA now, you are accurately representing like the music scene.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because I look at Thizzler and I'm like, yeah, that's not the Kid Lords, you know. That's not.
It's just not a realistic representation of what's being made.
Yeah,
and I mean, like, of course, like, it's interesting, right? It's because like if Thizzler wanted to be the Bay Area trap media company, they should brand themselves as the Bay Area trap media company, not the Bay Area music media company or the Bay Area hip hop music media company.
Yeah,
because like what they're showing is like 12% of like what kind of hip hop is being made in the Bay. They're just not accurately representing everything, and it's I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. You know. It's there's like that part of it, and then there's like I think there's a lot of other issues with this, of course, but I appreciate that, man. Like that's definitely like part of the goal. It's like I think there's a hole for that in the Bay Area now.
And like you were saying, and I can't reference which one it was, but how you were talking about podcasting is the new long form content, right? Radio shows are out, you know, TV is slowly getting out as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like this, like the podcast in itself, even though you're saying it's like not going to be it's not just a podcast thing. I feel like that's also one of the strong selling points. That and you throwing shows, you know, is like one of those like those selling points of you're going to be branching out in that scene, you know, like one of the like forefront of that. But that's another reason I did a podcast too. Like you and Joe Rogan are like my biggest like inspirations.
Thank you,
just
man.
In general.
That like means so much to me that I was able to inspire you. So thank you.
Dude,
I appreciate it, man.
And with that's like a good transitional of telling you like why I did this. So basically, I wanted originally I was going to school, right, for psychology, and I just wanted to do I wanted to be like a research psychologist, right, because I wanted to like get paid to learn. Right, I want to get paid to learn, but I don't know. I didn't know how. Right.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. And Joe Rogan, I loved how Joe Rogan always said like voices the fact that he doesn't know a lot, but he does know a lot in certain respects, right? But he gets on like Neil deGrasse Tyson, he gets on Michael Cox, right? Like he gets all those different people on, and he just sits there and picks their brain, you know, and he's getting paid. Right. So I was like, dude, I can get paid to get these people on that I like without getting in a certain niche.
It's kind of the coolest thing ever, right?
Right?
Yeah, it's kind of the best thing fucking ever. And I love it.
So the podcast, right? So for me, I was like, I never necessarily in my life at all have had anything that I've been genuinely passionate about, right? And I'm writing like a lifelong like memoir, if that's what you call it. It's like my personal pursuit to happiness. And For me, I'm writing it like in the sense of like, okay, this is me at 15 to 20. Like this is my outlook on my personal happiness, and then as it progresses, right? Sports. I did sports all my life. I did football for like 12 years, but I only did it because I was good at it.
Yeah.
Right. I could give a shit about football. Right? I don't even watch it to this day. Right. And that was like always a struggle for me, like, and my mom trying to like help me find my passion. And then that's a good transitional thing as why the Epiphany podcast. Right. So with your stuff, my original, like, finding the Above the Bridge was the first Kid Lords interview with the Kid Lords and Dro.
That interview feels like very touchstone for me. I feel like a lot of people have like said like that's how I found you guys, which is really cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think just in the Bay Area scene or just in general?
Yeah, because I mean the kids have such a big reach, and it's like
They do.
They have fans. Like
The Kid Colt, man.
Yeah, the Kid Colt. Like they have fans. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. So that's how I first found your content. Right. What was that, like 2 years ago? Almost?
I think it was just over a year ago. Probably like a year and a couple months.
Around there, right?
Yeah.
So I found that once I found that, I was like, what the hell is this guy doing? You know, I was like, dude, this is dope because no one's really doing anything like that here in the Central Valley. So I just submerged myself in your content, right?
Thanks,
like,
man.
In all different respects. And it's funny, I was having a conversation with someone like right when we were first going to get the last week. And she
Shout out to COVID.
Fuck, shout out to COVID. Fuck, bro. How you feeling about that, by the way?
Way better.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, when I was on the phone with you, I was like, bro, he does not sound good, bro.
Dude, when I was on the phone with you, I was in the CVS parking lot after I had like
Seriously?
taken a test, and I was like, oh my fucking God, dude. Yeah, it sucked.
Dude, that must have fucking
I
sucked,
felt awful, bro. I felt so bad.
That sucks getting
Beat it, though.
Hey, you fucking beat it, bro. Was that your first time getting COVID?
Yeah.
I was about to say, because you have not had COVID yet,
dude,
bro.
I know. I feel like I was one of the last survivors.
I know they finally got you, bro.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so so she was telling me, she's like, how do you feel about getting Dante on? I was like, I mean, it's cool. I'm excited. And she's like, you realize around a year ago, it was like a couple months, like 10, almost a year ago. I told her, I was like, one day I'm gonna get him on. I'm gonna interview him, and I'm gonna meet him. And then she's like, here you are, almost a year later.
That's crazy,
manifesting.
man.
And I was like, dude, that's fucking dope. I never really, I didn't put things into perspective that way. So how the Epiphany podcast, I'm gonna have to clip this one so people listen to this. How I started the Epiphany podcast was, well, the name, because originally it was Jay Creates, right?
Yeah.
I just did that as just a quick thing.
Like a placeholder?
Yeah, it's a placeholder. So the Epiphany podcast essentially is because your content had made me have so many epiphanies, and
thank you, man. That's an honor.
Like it helped me so much in so many different respects. Like especially your guests, right? Like your guests have such interesting stories, you know. And what I love is that fucking fly. What I love, bro, is that how open they are about expressing how they feel about
100%.
everything, like their depression, their anxiety, just anything, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do with this. I wanted to obviously show people's stories, but I also wanted to like be able to have these like, by society deems it, difficult conversations, awkward conversations, because like men's mental health is never talked about.
No.
You know, and especially like so many of like the men on your pod talk about that thing. They're like, this has helped me get through this, X,
Totally.
Y, Z, you know? And that's why I was like, dude, I want to be able to have these conversations with people and use my platform to be like, oh, like it's okay for a guy to talk about what the fuck he's going through.
Yeah.
You know? So bringing it back, I wanted to do that. And I'm not really religious, right? But my dad is big on religion, right? And this is going to make sense. Like, it's kind of funny, but it'll make sense. So my dad has read the Bible front to back like numerous times, right?
Wow, that's impressive, because I feel like a lot of people who are religious haven't done that.
Really?
That's really cool, yeah. Like the whole thing, that's sick.
Well, he has the same Bible that his sister gave him when he came to America when he was like 13. And he says every time he reads it, he learns something different from it, right? And that sounds funny to put those into the same comparisons, but it's the same with your pod. So
Let's go, baby.
Dude, so I've watched so many of your episodes like numerous of times.
Thank you, man.
And every time I rewatch it, I learn something different.
Thank you.
And not in a music sense. Like,
Interesting.
and because like I like music, I'm a big music person, but I don't take your content from a musical standpoint. I learn, so I've like, how would I say this? Your content has genuinely helped form me in a better way and helped me slowly climb out of like my like depressive states. I know that's a crazy thing to
That's
like
crazy
to say.
Thank you, man.
But like it's fucking real, bro. It's real, and like especially what's his name? Don Caprice.
Yeah.
Don Caprice's story is fucking crazy.
Nuts. Yeah, he's crazy, man.
You know, and it's interesting to see people's different mindsets around the same age. Right?
Yeah.
And I was kind of curious to ask about this. So Don Caprice was around like 27, 28, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Around there. Same with 8400 Jet.
Yeah.
Right? They're on the same age.
Yeah.
Relatively. And they have such different mindsets.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, totally.
And
Totally.
Is 8400 Jet just genuinely monotone?
Dude, he's like he's like the epitome of swagger. Like that guy just like walks around with like he's so like chill. He's like the definition of like okay, 100%. I gotta reach back out to him, man. Shout out to 8400 Jet.
Shout out to 8400 Jet, bro. He's still doing some stuff. Do you still follow him?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I felt a little down watching that interview, like 8400 Jet's interview, right? Because he just seemed, obviously he's still going, right? But then a part of me as a viewer felt like he felt defeated. He's like, when is this gonna happen? I've been doing this for so long, you know. And then and in his monotone voice, I was like, damn, bro,
you do a good 8400 Jet voice. That was very accurate.
Yeah, bro. And I was just like, damn, bro, like you'll get there. I was like, I was watching it. I was like, don't worry, bro, you'll get there. And he's like, man, I've been trying to get it going. I don't know what's gonna happen. And then you have like, Don Caprice where he's like, just I'm gonna fucking get it. I don't care. Like,
I'm gonna get it.
I'm gonna do it. And it doesn't matter how he did it, but he's doing it. You know. And I forgot where I was going with that fucking tangent, but
like the difference in their mindsets.
Right? And bringing it back, that's how what I wanted to do with this, right? Like this has helped, like your platform has helped me so much in that respect to like find my passion, right? Because this is a newfound passion for me. Like I didn't know that I genuinely love showcasing other people's gifts.
Yes.
And I'm thankful that every interview I've done so far, everyone has told me, they're like, oh, I feel heard. I feel like you listen, you know? And something
that's so important.
Like, especially about Los Banos, right? Like you're also curious about Los Banos. Like I've never felt heard here, right? Like in just any respect, like anything that I'm passionate about or any dreams or anything, it's just like put on the back burner, right?
Yeah.
So with what I wanted to do was I wanted to have people feel heard because I have my little platform, you know, and I want people to be able to be like, damn, like I'm trying, like 8400 Jet, someone that's been trying, but they never got that big break. And even though I have a small platform, relatively speaking, it's like I want to help people get that possible break.
I feel that, dude. Yeah, very similarly, because I totally understand that. I feel like there's so many people who are like, we're around like probably the size like Above the Bridges right now. Like I was super huge fans of it, like, or even way bigger people that I think like showed me that it was possible. Like I think like John Boy Media is a good example. Like somebody who showed me it was possible. Like I'm a gigantic Zane Lowe fan. Like I'm a gigantic Larry King fan. Like people like that who kind of showed me that it was possible. And it's interesting, right? Because it's like for a long time you feel like you're just throwing shit into the void. You know, like forever you feel like you're just throwing stuff into the void. I still feel like I'm throwing stuff into the void all the time. Yeah, but it's like eventually it starts to make sense. And I don't know if it ever makes sense to you. But it makes sense to the people around you, you know? It makes sense to the people like who are watching. And it's like if you just put enough stuff out there, like, and just keep going and keep going and keep going, you will learn. Like learning is inevitable. Like we as human beings, as long as you're able to like absorb your environment and you just keep going, it's like that is the number one ground rule thing that I tell everybody. It's like keep going, because if you don't know what you're doing, eventually you will. You know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Takes a long time, but it's like I feel like I'm like I feel like I'm on like level. It's interesting. I feel like when I had that crazy like epiphany, like a couple weeks ago that I was telling you about, I feel like that was like the beginning of like Above the Bridge, like phase 3.
Really?
You know,
That's dope.
Because like to me, I feel like, you know, phase 1 was kind of was just kind of like me working in a movie theater at 16 and going into empty theaters and writing about albums on my phone. Yeah. And then it was like that turned into a blog, and like that was kind of phase 1. I then feel like phase 2 was like when I was like going skits and like interviewing like 29 interviews in a month and just like absorbing as many people's stories as I possibly could. Yeah. And then like phase 3 was like when we started throwing shows. Or well, no, I feel like that was like, I guess that was phase 2, like that to like a couple weeks ago. And then we started throwing shows, et cetera, doing all this stuff. And then now I feel like we're kind of entering that new era, like that new phase, like where I want to get to. But 100%, dude, it's like you throw so much stuff into the void, you don't know who's listening, you know? You never know. But it's weird because I feel that same responsibility to like tell people stories and like it gets me so excited. That's what I love to do.
I'm kind of curious. You talked in I don't remember the name of it, but on one of your Before the Fame, is that what it's called? Before the Fame? Or, interviews, you were with the producer, right? And you were talking, and he was the one that did with like E40 and Taupe.
Yeah, Taupe.
Okay, and you talked to him about imposter syndrome, right? Yes. Have you ever dealt with that?
I feel like I'm getting a little bit right now.
Really?
Like the idea, like I inspire you, is so crazy to me, dude. Like, I mean, I don't. Yeah, no, I have.
Have you?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, like, but well,
because like for me, I have it bad.
Honestly, no. I mean, like, I guess now I think about it, because it's like. It's weird. Like, I feel like if I randomly like became like somewhat successful, or like I randomly like was able to like talk to people I want to talk to, or like, you know, get these guests, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
If that came at random, maybe I would. But it's like dude, like I was 18, like during quarantine, like sitting in my room, like writing about records and not knowing at all what this was. Yeah. Like I've put thousands of hours into this, and it's like. It took those hours to like allow me to like visualize what I wanted this to be. Yeah. And I think that helps me avoid imposter syndrome, because like I don't get stuck thinking about like, oh, like how did I get here? Because I know how I got here, and it's like
that makes sense.
Fucking like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of work, and a lot of the work is like just trying to figure out what this is. That's like so much of the work. Like what Above the Bridge is right now is not what I thought it was going to be 5 years ago. It's not what I thought it was going to be a year ago. Yeah. You know?
That makes
so
sense.
It's like I don't really get imposter syndrome, because like in my head, the way I got here was so clear. Like looking back at it, you know? Yeah. Like it's a blur, but it makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because for me, I feel like I deal with that so much, because the original reason, like not reason, but like way I've acquired my like following was Snapchat.
Interesting.
I've been on Snap forever, right? And when I first graduated, I worked at a Food for Less. That's a grocery store, right? And I did a little segment on my Snapchat story called Cart Chronicles. Right? It's kind of like Cartnark. You know Cartnarks?
Yeah, Cartnarks. Okay, Cartnark's hella funny.
It is hella funny. So that's why I would like talk shit about the people that leave their carts.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's hella funny.
And then you know that spotlight setting on Snap? Okay, so that's where I would post my story, public story, and then spotlight. And I just have been doing that for years.
That's super untraditional, I feel like. I've never really heard. I want to know more about the Snapchat game. I've like recently kind of started to understand it.
Dude, that fly has been fucking with us. Yeah, so I was doing that for years up until now, right? And I just more people. And then one day I quit there, right? And then I got this new job at a hardware store, right? And then I shit you not even.
How old are you?
I'm 22.
Okay.
Right. So I remember I was losing my shit, because that's when I forgot my first 5K. Right. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, this is weird. Like, people are listening to what I do. And then what really fucked with me was some kid. I forgot what state it was. I think it was like, it was somewhere on the East Coast. Like it was maybe over there, like New York or something. He had cancer. Mm-hmm. And he goes, bro, I've been watching your shit for so long, and you just make me like smile. You make me laugh. And he's going through like his chemo, cool. And he's like, bro, like your shit makes me like smile. He's like, no, okay. So preface to that. So I'm at the grocery. I'm at the hardware store for about a couple weeks, and then my mom dies. Right.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. My mom had cancer, right, since like junior high, right.
Wow. So it's like full circle.
Yeah. So. For me, I was like, fuck, right? And he's like, your mom just passed. You're still pushing through it. You're being positive about it. And I was talking because for me, originally, I was like, it was a vlog. I was vlogging, right? And I was vlogging like my mom going through stuff. And then my girlfriend at the time was like, hey, you don't have to post this on you don't have to like put a front or nothing. I was like, I'm not. I just want to show people that like what people are going through is real.
Yeah.
You know, and it's okay to have these conversations, you know, and to be like a positive thing, you know. So a couple weeks later, that's when that guy texted me, and he's like, dude, like your mom, like I'm going through the same stuff and you're still here.
Wow.
And I was like, fuck, like I'm doing something, right? So fast forward to like now, basically people like come up to me like, dude, I watch your stories. Like that's such a regular thing for me now.
Wow, yeah.
And why I first acquired Imposter Syndrome was when I started going to the Bay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have this following, right? I got about 15 to 20 on Instagram, right? I'm meeting these people, we're exchanging socials, and they're like, what do you do? Right? Because they're just curious. Like, what do you do? And to me, I'm just like, I fucking vlog. Like, I don't know. Like, and for me, this was before I found AboveTheBridge, right? I'm just like, I don't fucking know. I'm just here, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, I find a little, like, what is her name? What was her name? Estelle Allen, how she says, kill the part in you that cringes.
Yeah. She's goated, man.
She's goated.
Yeah.
So for me, I had to kill that part in me that cringes, but I find like influencers cringe.
Yeah.
Right? Like the TikTokers, like this and that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like do your Dougie, dog. Like I don't care, whatever. But for me, I always felt like I wasn't offering anything of value to anybody, right?
Interesting.
I just had this following for no fucking reason. But
Yeah.
if you had me on Snapchat, you knew what the reason was. But that goes away in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Instagram didn't necessarily do justice to what I do, right? And then I started J Vlogs because my name is George Valencia, so it was JV Vlogs, right? And then it didn't stick. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Right? And so basically I was kind of like, okay, this isn't it. I just gave up on it. This was like 2021, right? So then fast forward to now, I feel like I'm slowly getting through that imposter syndrome of like, okay, I am offering something of value. I am doing something good, and this is what it is.
So like you gained a following on something that you didn't think was providing value?
Yeah, but I knew it was providing value, but for me, it was like that sense of validation that everyone was giving me that I've never got before.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I don't have a big friend group, you know. I never really had a lot of friends, right? And that's why I was always like not envious, but I was like admired the fact of like your friend group, like you and like Mateo, Lance, Monet, like all of those people. Like that's so dope that you found like a tight knit group of people.
Thank
that
you, man.
like
I feel lucky for it every single day.
dude. Shout out to them, dude.
Shout out to all the guys, man. That's my family. But I feel like beyond like you know what's funny is I get imposter syndrome about that.
How so? Like, what do you mean?
Because like that was like what I watched like growing up. Like I feel like I watched like people on YouTube and like on the internet. I'm like, they have this dope ass cool group of friends and like they have all these people and they're all creatively minded and they're all together and it's like that's what I wanted.
Yeah,
That's what I wanted. And like I didn't realize that I found it.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't
makes
like
sense.
it's not like it was like a moment where I was like, oh, I've just found all these people today and
yeah, they're
you
there
know,
the whole time.
they were there the whole time. Yeah, and it's like I have that group of people creatively in LA, and then it's like I have people creatively in the Bay, and it's like I just have all my friends are in music now. All my friends are in music, almost
Literally.
all of them.
Yeah,
And it's wild because like I
Yeah.
feel like I was on the outside looking in at that for so long, and then
Yeah.
it was like one day it just clicked, and I was like, I have this, and
Yeah.
I didn't know, you know,
Mhm.
and it's weird, and it's so many different places too. Like I feel like I have like a gigantic group of friends in the Bay Area musically. I have like a gigantic group of friends in LA musically. I have like I just feel like so lucky to like be able to have met the people I've met through this. That's
Yeah.
the most important thing.
And the thing that I like is that you call them friends. It's
Yeah.
like you can consider them friends. You know, it's not just acquaintances. You guys aren't just like people in the music scene that know each
No,
other.
yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, we hang out, you know, like
Yeah, literally.
It's not like I just work with these people. Like it's like these people come to my house. We watch movies. We like
Yeah.
we'll party together. They'll come over. Like we'll hang out. Like there's people that I've met through music that I've sat on in my backyard and had 4-hour conversations with
Yeah.
about like the meaning of life and like people who like their trials and tribulations and like these are people who there's one individual who like looking at the music, looking at the Bay Area music scene as a kid, I was like a fan of this individual. This individual is now like one of my best friends, and like
Sick.
sitting, like there's this like moment in my mind that's like procured. I don't think I'll ever forget it. It was like a conversation I had with him. We were sitting, we had a party at my house, and there was like this whole party going on. People dancing inside, people hanging outside, you know, chilling, smoking, having fun, whatever. And I was just sitting on my couch outside just with this one friend, and we were just kind of watching this whole thing, and we sat there for 4 hours, and and it was like by the time we stopped talking, the party ended. Everybody else had left. My roommates all gone to bed. Just me and my friend. We were sitting there talking, and it was one of the best one of the most eye-opening conversations I've ever had in my entire life. I'll never forget it. But like, that was an individual that I had like been a fan of like 2 years prior. And it's like just being able to have some, especially like older, like men that are like 4 or 5 or 3 or 4 years older than me that I have around me that I can like look up to and have like strong male role models. Like, I'm so grateful for that. Like, I feel like,
dope,
dude, at 20, like I moved out of my parents' house and was fully financially independent at 20 years old. Like, that is like that's like
it's crazy now.
Yeah.
Before, like you were talking about like how with our parents,
everybody did it. Yeah. But it's like, that's asking to like, you know, get fucked up in some regard, like have something bad happen or like go down a bad path. But like,
literally,
I think that could happen to me. But like, I'm so lucky to have so many good like role models around me, like older people that I can look up to. Even, you know, some are in music, some aren't. But there's people that I've met and be like, this is like a person that's older than me. Yeah, like specifically like males that are older than me that I can look up to. And be like, that's a man I want to be like. I want to be that respectful, that honest, that charismatic, that friendly, that giving. You know, like I want to be like that. Yeah, and like I feel so lucky for that. That's what I get imposter syndrome about. It's like my friends.
And it's interesting to me because all of those things, it's funny, and that this is the beautiful thing about social media is you're the equivalent of that to me.
Thank you.
Which is wild. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I find it so crazy because
we all have those people, you know. Yeah, everybody has that. It's all just this gigantic chain of like, I look up to this person, they look up to me, they look up to each other, but it's like we should all be friends. Right? You know, it's like no one's above anybody. It's like we're all just individuals with beautiful stories and things to offer each other. It doesn't mean I'm above you or below you. You know.
With that, tell everyone real quick about rule number 2 on your board.
People, is it fan or
no, the LA? How you don't want to be like these LA weirdos.
Don't be like these LA music industry weirdos. If you're a fan of somebody, tell them. If somebody's a fan of you, say thank you. It's a beautiful. I live by that.
and that's literally why I wanted to start off with this. Yeah. With that, you know, because I was just like, dude, like,
I'm glad you read that. I feel like, you know, it's weird is like, I put that there as like a studio thing, and like it literally I never even intended for it to be on camera. It just is there, and I never
well, I can't even. No, actually, no. To be fair, I can't really read it. It's just you voice it.
Oh, I've said it, huh?
Yeah. Like you said it, like just in different interviews and in different times, you know, and. I fucking like that, bro, because it's like a lot of people do that to me. Like they genuinely tell me like, hey, you know what, bro? I fuck with your shit. I fuck with your stories. I like your shit. Makes me laugh. Cool, you know? Like over here, I feel like that's a good, like not something that people, I've never really been to LA like that. Yeah. Actually, I've only been to LA like fucking twice, I think. But I like that. And that's why when you came here, I was like, you know what? Nah, like, rule number 2, bro. Like I have to like you're someone that I've like genuinely looked up to. You know what I mean? I have to give you those flowers on that. You know.
Thank you, and I will forever be grateful for that and forever say thank you. It's like there's this weird thing. I think, you know, it kind of goes in tandem with men's mental health. It's like this level of like. I guess it, you know, it's weird territory, but like I guess the word toxic masculinity applies here. It's like this level of like distance that exists amongst like men, especially young men. Kind of in our culture right now, where it's like if I relinquish my ego to you and I tell you that I'm a fan of you, that somehow creates a power dynamic where you're above me. But I don't think it has to exist in that fashion. I don't think it has to exist in that regard. Yeah, I'm a fan of all my friends, and I feel like so many of my friends are fans of me, and I'm grateful for that. Yeah, like I live with some of my favorite musicians.
Literally,
you know, like
with Lance and all of them.
Yeah, it's like I live with some of my favorite filmmakers, and it's like that is just the nature of being in a creative community. Doesn't mean I'm above you or you're above me, or you know, my follower count doesn't mean anything. Your follower count doesn't mean anything. We are all individuals with things to provide, and we should focus on what we love about this, not like where we've gotten with it.
Yeah, you know? I like that about your platform, which is funny because I find myself, because a lot of the times I'll have your podcast in my like earphones when I'm at work, right? And it's funny because I love how like good of a conversation it is, and I find myself like answering or like chiming in on the interview. I'm just like, bro, I'm like, bro, literally. And then I'm like, oh, it's an interview. It's not a phone. It's not like a fucking phone call.
I love that.
You know, and that's why it's interesting too that I like that you like throw a little bit of yourself into the interview, but it's mostly about the person. You know what I mean? But like for me, The only reason I like, for example, with this, I was nervous about the interview is because I was like, oh, like you're like one of my big inspirations. I was like, fuck, like I have to don't fuck this up. But overall, I was like, bro, like I feel like I fucking know this guy.
Yeah,
You know
thanks,
what I
man.
mean?
I appreciate it. I think that level of not. See, I'm interested to explain to you like things that I'm inspired by, because it's like, so like I think that kind of element of putting myself into it and it feeling like a conversation between two friends rather than an interview is a very that's a lot of Zane Lowe influence. I think Zane Lowe is the master of that. I think like I'm a forever fan and inspiration of his craft, and I think the way that Zane Lowe gears a conversation feels like a conversation, and I think that's how every interview should feel. It should never feel like it's crazy to me. And this was something when I realized this, I think this took my interviewing to like another level. When I realized that like, oh, excuse me. That Zane Lowe doesn't ask questions.
Okay.
He interviews people without asking questions. He more or less just like, and when he does ask a question, there's like 5 or 6 like declarative statements before that question comes. It's like every question feels like a peg in the conversation that moves it forward. It's never just like something like, okay, I asked you this question. This is we covered this. So now let's move on to the next thing. Yeah. It's like with Zane Lowe, it feels like he, if you made a record, right, and I was inspired by the story you told about your mom in it, let's say, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody could just be like so one person can be like, oh, like, like that experience with your mother and moving past that. Well, what was that like? Like that's one way to ask that question.
Yeah.
Another question is like, another way you could say that is like, when I was 16, like I went through this with my mother. I related to your story because of this.
Okay.
And then like sense. I'm not asking a question there, but it's like it regulates a response.
Yeah, and that's kind of like it's funny. I watch. It doesn't really matter which one because I watch I'd say about like 75% of Music Matter interviews, but like I usually watch at least one of your interviews before every interview to like chill.
Thanks, man.
Like
I do the same thing. People that I like,
like to just chill out. You know what I mean? Because you have such a calming sense to your interviews that I'm like, what you just said about asking questions. Like I have all these questions, but it's like, okay, integrate those into a conversational sense.
100%. Like I don't. Like it's weird. Like I call them like interviews, but it's like
just having a conversation. Though.
Yeah,
essentially.
That's what I want it to feel like.
Yeah,
I always want it to feel like just two people having a conversation, whether I've known this person. Because I mean, that's kind of a thing too. Is like I've had people on that I've known forever, and I've had people on that I met that day.
Yeah,
like a ton of people that I've had on were people that I met that day, and then there's people like Lance I've known for 8 years, and I have him on. So it's like it's very different in the relationship with every single one, but I want to keep everyone keeping like more of a conversation. And
okay, also another thing though, interviewing. How do you figure out who to interview?
I have to be a fan of them.
You have to be a fan of them.
Yeah. I think recently I've gotten to a place too where like my mindset on that's shifting a little bit. I'm now more looking at it from for a long time I was like, okay, am I a fan of this person's music? Now I think I'm getting to a place where it's like I'm asking myself from an outside perspective, like, does this person have a story to tell? And not, I think everybody does, but it's like, does this person have a story that I can bring out of them? It's kind of like how I look at it. It's like, what is like the story that is here to tell? Because like, I don't think these things should feel like interviews. I think they should feel more like stories.
Okay.
Like I want to give people platforms to tell their stories.
But how do you figure that out though without knowing them personally?
Generally, like if somebody has like a story from the outside that like there is to be uncovered, like there is like inklings of it. Like for example, I just had this guy Buppy on. Shout out to Buppy. He talks a lot in his music about being so young and moving to LA. He moved to LA at 17, and he talks about that in his music. So there we go. There's something that spikes my interest. I'm like, that is a jumping off point at which I can learn about that story. We just did this band Gosh. They're a Bay Area hardcore band, and from the outside I was all like, I want to know more about like this Bay Area hardcore renaissance that's kind of happening right now that I feel like nobody's talking about. So I was like, I want to learn about that story from them.
Okay.
So it's like I think there's always inklings from the outside of like this person has a story to be told. It's like there has to be something that I want to learn from them, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I know for me, the way I've started to move figuring out who to interview is who's actually serious about what they're doing.
That too, yeah.
Right? So for me, necessarily, even though it's not music and there's like not necessarily a story, I want to figure out how could this benefit my viewer.
Yeah.
In the sense, because like ultimately, I'm just a vessel, right? I'm just using my platform to put everyone else on. So, for example, like I'm having a florist on in
That's
like,
awesome.
in like a couple weeks, right? And she's very serious about what she does, right? And the way I can tell about that is like the portfolio, for example.
Yeah.
Right?
How long they've been doing it, how much they do it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, how much value can this person to provide to me as well as the viewer watching this? Because like with the Epiphany podcast, it's like what if some chick's watching this in fucking Santa Cruz and she's like, dude, I've always wanted to be a florist, but I didn't even know which way to start.
Yeah.
Boom, that's how
That's awesome. Yeah.
you know what I mean?
100%.
So yeah, it's kind of hard for me because then like being in such a small town, I have people like, oh, like let me get on the pod. It's like, how do I don't know.
I've gotten a lot of the yo, let me get on the pod.
Yeah,
like,
literally
yeah.
same, and I don't know how to say it. Like I'll just be like, oh, I'll let you know. I just hit him with that, but it's like, no, like
I don't really feel too awkward about doing that anymore.
Really?
I think I did for a long time, but
just blanket, it's just straight up no.
I just feel comfortable enough. Like I think. I mean, it's not like I hate you. It's just like
No.
It's just like I don't know what there is for me to, what story there is to me to uncover here.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it just takes more time for me to learn about you to be able to like know what story that can help you tell. It's like kind of what you said. All I am is a vessel. It's like I exist for people to come on and for me to learn their story. I'm just like a facilitator of that story.
Yeah.
I don't want to have you on if I don't fully understand how I can facilitate your story.
Yeah, that makes sense. And how do you do because I know sometimes you talk about like how you stalk the shit out of it.
I stalk everybody. Yeah.
Is that how you go about like an interview? Like you just like dive into every regard of their stuff?
Yeah, I listen to their entire discography. Like I've never interviewed anybody that I haven't heard like all of their music that's on streaming before. Like I listen to absolutely everything. And then from there I go and I look them up and I try to like figure out like what were people looking up about this person.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So
I like
that.
that.
Yeah. So if they have other interviews, I'll watch those, or like if there were write-ups about them, I'll read those. And then it's like I also just do a lot of deep thinking. Like I think a lot about like kind of what I was saying, like what is the story that I want to get out of this person, and not like I'm curating their story, but like what is it that I want to help them facilitate? Like what do I want to learn from this person? Yeah. And then I make these templates. So I'll do like I have like an intro, right? Yeah. So like one of my favorite intros I've done, I just rewatched it, was the Dreamawake interview I did with him, where I kind of like set the stage like right off the bat, and I'm like, I pretty much said like I was like, oh, I'm excited to interview you during this time because I feel like you're very much at the forefront of this underground wave of like California producers that are like helping kind of boom this like electronic hip hop movement with artists like Uno and Yeet and kind of that whole era, and it's very exciting to get to talk to you at this time. And then so I kind of led with that. So it was like there was an intro there, right? Okay. So I think the intro is very important. I think like letting your guests know like what it is that you want to get out of them immediately is very, very important. Figuring out what makes them tick is like very, very, very interesting.
Okay, that makes sense.
Makes sense. It's like what does this person want to talk about?
Yeah, that's why I also too. Like with you, I kind of wanted to just have it more like just fuck it, like because you were comfortable on an interview basis. Yeah. So I don't like with the questions. I was like, okay, I'll just do it like this. But a lot of people
aren't. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll share the questions with them prior.
Cool.
Do you ever do that or no?
No, I don't. But I definitely could see how you do. Like why you do. That makes sense.
Because like especially too since like you and Dro as of now are the only artists per se to be on the pod, that a lot of people are just like average Joes doing whatever they do. So it's like they're not doing interviews. So
yeah.
That's like one of my selling points. Yeah. That's one of my selling points. I'm like, hey, they're like, I've never been on one. I don't know. I'm like, hey, I'll send you the questions so you can look it over. And then once I say that, it's like, oh, actually, I can prepare for it.
Probably because like it shows them that like you're making an effort to like make them comfortable.
Yeah, literally. And that's why another reason too, which I kind of have to chill on, is that like if I can tell it's a more laid back person, right? I'd be like, hey, so what do you like to drink, for example?
Yeah,
like,
that's sick.
Like me and Joe, we had some sake before, like at the place next door, and then on the pod we're drinking some BuzzBalls.
That's fire. How do you know Joe?
So, junior year, I think, or junior or senior year, he went to a prom, right, in Evergreen. That's where he went to school, and then I'm from here, but then my neighbor's sister, her boyfriend's little sister
What the fuck?
needed a fucking date to prom.
That's crazy.
So I was just like a renegade type shit. I was like a renegade.
A renegade.
So then I went to the prom.
Wait, say that again. What's that connection?
Okay. So
I feel like there should be a graph.
yeah, okay. So my neighbor, me and my neighbor are like lifelong friends. His sister, okay? His sister,
Yeah.
his boyfriend, right?
Okay.
His sister's boyfriend, the boyfriend's little sister
Okay.
needed a date to prom.
I see. Okay, there we go.
And then here I am.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God, like you're a good looking young guy. Like, would you want to go to prom in San Jose with my blah, 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 blah. And
Yeah.
I was just like, fuck it. Like, I don't care. Like, that's a dub. I don't care. So then I went, it was a total shit show, right? Like the date itself, like the prom date itself, it was like horrible. It was a fiasco. But then Dro was so outgoing,
Yeah.
that like me and him were in the same court of friends, right? He was dating a girl at the time. And me and him just hit it off, and he's just like dancing. He's just doing.
That's a sick ass way to make a friend,
right?
That's cool, yeah.
And then it's funny because he fell off with all of that people, and then me and him had each other on Snapchat.
Yeah.
So then I watched his story and like just different things about him, and then he had like his music stuff that he would do because he would do covers on Snapchat as well.
Wow.
He would
okay.
just be like, "Who wants to be on my music story?" And I'd just be like, "Bro, I got you, gang." Like, slide.
Yeah.
So then I would be on it, and then. He would do like just little intros on his guitar, not intros, like covers on the guitar. So then me and him always have just kept in touch.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's how I met. And then we met up because it was COVID, right? COVID was so then I never really was over there. And then Kid Lords had a show, like a little thing, like Vintage Fair mall, that thing. So they did a show there. That was I don't know if that was one of their first shows, but it was definitely like
I remember that show. That was like right after I had met them, I believe. Like right after.
Yeah, around there. So that's when I met up with him, and then that's when he introduced me to the Kid Lords. I want to get the Kid Lords on one day, but I definitely know it's not now. In the sense that like something that like your guest and you have taught me that it's like things should happen organically.
Yeah.
And just when it happens, it happens.
Yeah, totally.
So
Totally, yeah.
So like for you, for a prime example, is when I first met you at your show that you had with what is that band that
Carpal Tunnel?
Carpal Tunnel. Yeah.
Thank you for coming to that, by the way.
Dude, I was so hyped, bro. I was so,
Thanks, man.
So I don't know what part of me, because like things just happened with me in my personal life just so randomly. So I had all my gear with me just in case, right?
Yeah.
Because I never know, right? But then looking back, I was like, I'm so glad that something didn't happen that day, because I wouldn't have been prepared. I didn't have my team with me. And now like sitting down with you, I'm like sick. The only reason I'm nervous, whatever, but like I'm ready, you know?
Yeah.
And I know like with the Kid Lords, for example, like I really look up to them as well in the same respect that like they helped, like their interviews and their music just helped me a lot.
Totally.
So I'm like, I don't think I'm on that like mental wavelength yet to interview them. You know?
When it's meant to happen, it'll happen.
Literally.
100%. I mean, there's interviews that I think like happened for me too before I was ready for them.
Really?
Yeah. So don't. I mean, like I think you have the right mindset. Like don't rush it. Like when it's meant to happen, it'll happen. Like you're around the same people. It'll work out. You know. Like when it's supposed to work out, it definitely will. And I think like that's kind of the mindset you have to approach all these things with. You know, it's like there are a lot of people who I've had the honor to have on that I didn't know if I ever would. That like they happen. You know, like my friend Curtis. I knew Curtis like
Curtis Water?
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew Curtis for like 9-8 months before, and I was just like a fan of him, and you know we just ended up becoming friends because of mutuals. We met each other at like a video shoot, and then like you know that interview didn't happen until like 9 months later. But it was like I was very happy that it did, because it was like
that was a dope interview.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I love his story. But it was like right when the album was coming out.
Yeah.
And it made sense, you know. So I was happy that it happened the way that it did. But it's like these things will fall into place. They'll happen. It's like I think it's another testament to just moving. Just keep moving, like one foot in front of the other. Like that's all you could think about.
Yeah,
that's all you can think about. You're I feel like 50% of your day-to-day concern should be like, how do I keep going? Like, what can I do next? You know, like
that's kind of how I have looked at this. For example, like even though I have interviews lined up until like mid next month,
nice.
It's like, okay, just slow down, right?
Yeah.
Because like for me, I have like severe like high functioning, like diagnosed ADHD.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so hard for me to do like an interview thing, because I'm like, keep my train of thought, focus, listen on them. And then like, I just have like 1,000 things in my head. And my mom always just tell me, she's like, sometimes you just have to slow down.
Yeah.
Just
That's so crazy because my mom used to tell me the same thing.
Really?
Yeah.
So I'm also kind of curious, how did moving to LA, how was that whole experience? Because I know, like, it was the mid video of the iPhone vlog, right? That was really touching to me because
thank you for watching. I love that thing,
dude.
I'm very proud of that one.
Like you went with what? You went with Mateo and Lance initially to house.
Yeah,
watch.
to house hunt. Yeah.
So that was the first time. So you guys went there once, watched, and then came back, or?
So we went. I'd been going to LA at that point for like a long time.
Oh, really?
But we like went looking for houses like 3 different times. We probably did like 35 fucking tours. Like we did a lot of tours, dude. Moving across the state's hard. But I kind of just like went with my normal mindset of like, I'm gonna make this happen. I don't care. I was like, I don't care what anybody says. Like I don't care. People who are like, oh, like it's hard to find a house down there these days. Like everything's very expensive. Like the economy. This like shut up. Like let
me do what I gotta do.
I was like I will make it work. So I did. I kind of just like went down like. We went down in 3, I think it was 3 different weekends. We probably did like 10 tours a weekend. I just like jam packed. Like, and what I started doing was like, it's funny, like my mindset kind of like, interviews was like adaptable to this, right? It's like, for a weird analogy, but like when I interviewed different people, I didn't know, like in the beginning, I didn't know what that interview would bring me. I just kind of had a blind belief they would bring me something. It was kind of the same way that I looked at for like touring these houses in LA.
Okay.
I was kind of just like, like this one is out of our price range. Yeah. It's in an undesirable location, but let me just tour it.
Yeah.
So just to do it, you never know. So we just did it. We did a ton of tours in a bunch of different places, and the house we ended up getting was a house that was like incredibly affordable in our price range in a very nice area. Yeah. And we went and did this interview. And not interview, but a walkthrough or whatever. Yeah. And we did the tour, and we're like, oh my god, this house is so beautiful. Like this is perfect. This is everything I've ever wanted. Yeah. And but keep in mind, we're like 4 kids applying for a house. None of us with any like financial backing. None of us with any like serious lines of credit. Yeah. None of us with any like college experience really. Yeah. But just like. Hope and a prayer. But like our landlord, like so we did this walkthrough, and I remember like sitting with my roommate after, and we were just thinking, and we were just talking, and we are like, damn, like we're not gonna get that house. Yeah. We were like, there's no way. And then we like went back to the Bay, but literally probably like a month later, we were getting ready to move into another house in Harbor City. Harbor City is not the best area. It's also not.
Is that in LA?
Yeah, it's pretty far. It's like closer to Long Beach. It's like pretty deep from LA. Yeah, so it was like kind of undesirable, but like. We were getting ready to move there. Yeah. And I got a call from like my landlord randomly. And keep in mind, she had told us that like there were already like 3 other families that had like priority over us. Oh, like emphasis on families. Yeah, like, families, not just some kids. Not just like random ass kids. Yeah, like families, right? Yeah. But they all dropped. And she called me and she was like, "Are you still interested?" And I was like, yeah. You're like, yeah, I'll go right now. Yeah. So, but like, yeah, we got the house and we got like beyond lucky, super grateful for it. But
how did you figure out like? So like, I'm kind of also curious, like, you're with your. Like your team, right? With Mateo and who's on your team, like of Above the Bridge? Yeah, I mean, it's forever evolving, ever changing, forever morphing. But it's like Mateo, Mario, like Joey Valero helps with a lot of stuff. Like there's all kinds of people that we just plug in place in like certain areas too, and just help out with different things. Like how did that come up? Like Mario and Mateo willing to help. Was it like they believed in the vision, or was it like? You asked them, or how did that work? Mateo fully believed in it. Like Mateo, like I met in a photo class in high school. Oh shit! Okay. Yeah, and I sat next to him, and he was just like Above the Bridge is all I've ever talked about to anybody ever. That's also another thing I stress a lot. Like talk about your dreams. Like don't be too nervous to like explain to people like what you want to do and why you want to do it. Like just be an open book. Like but so I was just talking to him about it, and then he became like a believer in it, and he like which was an early adopter, and then Mario. I met at a show. Mario, I met at a
a Carpal Tunnel and Fashion Jackson show at the Great American Music Hall that Lance opened for.
Okay.
And Mario was the first person to ever notice me for Above the Bridge.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
like
dope.
in public. And I met him, and then we became really close friends. And he was just like a very talented photographer and filmmaker. And
Yeah.
we just eventually, it just made sense.
Is that his role? Like he just mans the cameras behind it?
Mario
or-
right now does all of our podcast producing, and he does like a lot of our coordination for it as well. He does a lot of the reaching out, a lot of the planning and the organizing for the podcast, and then he does all the production from behind the desk as well.
Okay.
So like all the cuts you see, like that's all live time. Like we have a camera switchers, and we have like, so Mario sits back there pretty much while I'm doing the interview in live time and cuts it on a Blackmagic 810 Mini.
Okay.
And it's pretty much just an interface that like HDMI outs like into all of our cameras.
Uh-huh.
So he just cuts the perspective, and we just run it through OBS and get like a greater screen recording of what's happening.
Oh shit!
So-
I thought that was all like post, like editing.
Nah, I mean that was like a whole nother thing. How like I've gone through a lot of iterations of how I do what I do, but
Yeah.
so Mario does that, and then he does all the clipping for it. Like he writes down the timestamps like in live time. So it's like now the post production process for the podcast is very minimal.
Really?
Yeah, and now I'm working with a new guy too named Doug. Shout out to Doug.
Shout out Doug.
He's doing all of our editing now as well. So that's
Really?
like another big phase of like, I mean, that's like another big development with like kind of like the new era of Above the Bridge is like, I think in the next couple weeks we should have this on lock. But I'm starting to do 3 videos a week.
Like interviews, or what do you mean?
No, so I want to do 1 interview the goal right now, and I'm gonna say this so I can hold myself to it. The goal right now is every Monday. So hopefully this, we have this down pat in the next month.
Yeah.
But the goal is every Monday we should be dropping an interview.
Sick.
Every Wednesday we should be dropping a live session, and then every Friday should be like an original piece of music content, something we haven't done before, like a
Okay.
video about music. So maybe it's an iPhone vlog, maybe it's like a show recap, maybe it's it's like a one-off video with somebody. Like we have like all kinds of plans, like a ton of little one-off videos I want to do, like just different things about music with artists, with friends. But it's like now I kind of have the network to do that.
Okay.
So I'm trying to really do that, and that's kind of what I want to take grips of, like the future of the Above the Bridge network. It's like
that makes sense.
yeah,
That makes sense.
and I mean in terms of like people, like I'm now thinking about people in terms of like, I feel like I was for a long time I was very overly intense sometimes about like how I wanted to do this, and I feel like I would like expect a ton out of people. Now I'm trying to let people define their own relationship with Above the Bridge. And the reasoning for that is because I don't want to be overbearing. I don't want to get people like too involved in something where I'm not paying them a ton of money yet.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to help let people define their own
Yeah.
relationship with this.
That makes sense.
And that took a lot of self-reflection to understand, and a lot of like, I think just like deep thought to begin to understand like this is my dream, and in my head it makes perfect sense. That does not mean it makes sense to everybody else.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, so it's like now I'm kind of trying to let people define their own relationship with it, and like have jobs. And I learned a lot of that from like, I'm working as a network manager for a music media company right now. That's dope. I just got a job there.
Congrats,
yeah,
bro.
thank
What the
you. So I'm very grateful for that.
hell? No more Benihanas?
Yeah, I should be out of there pretty soon, next
Dude,
month.
That's dope, bro.
Yeah,
I'm happy for you.
thank you, man. Thank you. Feel so lucky. But so Live 2 is the name of the company. But I'm learning a lot from them. They're kind of like I'm learning a ton from like what they did and like their trajectory and their path and everything. But one big thing I've been learning and thinking about is that relationship with people on your team. It's like learning to develop that wherewithal and that foresight to allow people to kind of define their own relationship with what you're doing. And I think that works best in like a one-off job kind of thing almost, right? So it's like Mario right now, his focus with like Above the Bridge is like the production of the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's low commitment, it's easy, can help there, it's simple. With Doug, this new guy we're working with, he does all of our editing for Music Matters. So it's like, he's going to take care of that. And it's like, that's how I kind of want to begin to define relationships with people as the team expands. And I think that was something, I mean, that's like, not to like, I hate like the idea of myself giving advice, but like, I will say like, if you plan to like grow the Epiphany podcast and like Jay creates in general and like something bigger than just a podcast, or like have a network of shows and things of that sort, I will recommend like, I think it's a lot easier to allow people people who you work with to define their own relationship with what you're doing. Okay. It like prevents people getting burnt out. It prevents people resenting you. It prevents people feeling like they're doing like this is a job. you know, because
Yeah.
that was my fear. Like, I never wanted to rinse the creativity out of anybody.
Yeah.
I wanted to work in tandem with people and things that they care about, you know.
Yeah.
And like the entire vision's only ever gonna make sense to me.
Of course. Yeah.
You know, like, that's how it is. That
Like you can vocalize it to people, but
Yeah.
it's like only so much that they can retain.
Totally, yeah.
You know?
And like they don't like I needed to stop thinking that everybody else had spent thousands of hours thinking about Above the Bridge. Because in
Yeah.
reality, I was the only one
Yeah.
that had, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like that was a very good shift for me. And I'm very happy
Yeah.
that I've done that. And now I'm trying to develop more relationships. I'm working more on like a quantity rather than a quality, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it's more so like I'd rather have a large group of people that have one responsibility with Above the Bridge that they really care about and they're really excited to do and passionate to do, and it feels like a great side project for them and a great thing to add to their life or their creative space, you know, rather than like me making people do a bunch of shit that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
So it's
that's how I feel I've been trying to do, because
Yeah.
I'm always going to vocalize my appreciation for anybody on this team.
You got to, yeah.
You know, because like these are like the first people that actually like not invested, but like they definitely like believed in what I'm doing
Yeah.
for the first time. Because that's why the pod would move so slow, because I can't do all this by myself on top of working 40 hours a week somewhere else, you
It's
know?
a lot, man.
So that's why like I'm so appreciative of like anything they want to do, you know, because I don't want it to seem like for my writer, for example, me and her are talking about making this like also like a website, like an article, like a blog.
Oh, that's so
You
cool.
know,
Do you know what Pure Nowhere is?
Mm-mm.
Shout out to Kyla.
Shout out Kyla.
Friend of mine, she ran this. I could gush about Pure Nowhere for hours, but like Pure Nowhere is in my eyes one of the coolest early music media companies in California, and
shit.
they understood this shit. I feel like a lot better than a lot of people.
Yeah.
Very very early, but Kyla and Abby of Pure Nowhere, incredible publication. I think you'd probably be inspired by what they do, but they did that for a long time. Like they had like an open submission form on their website where like a big part of like what their vision was. It's kind of, you know, similar to your mission statement, but like they had like an open form on their website where people could just submit things that they were thinking about and submit thoughts and like submit like, how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, that's
and
dope.
then those stories would be shared anonymously in order to like just provide insight and like provide catharsis to other people.
And that's like what you were saying about like what you want them to be excited about what they do.
Yeah.
Right? And my biggest thing is, since the people that I have on my team are just kind of starting and not starting, but like in the beginning stages of their careers and whatever they're doing, for example, right? So like for my writer example, I want her to be able to get something out of this, in the sense of, because she's a freelance writer, right?
Yeah.
So if I figured people can sit down and actually read, for like the readers that enjoy like this but aren't going to sit and down and watch or listen to this, they can read an article, right? And like a full-fledged article about Dante and his whole thing, and that's where she comes in. And then in whatever field that she does,
That's so cool.
It's like, oh, you know what, I'm a freelance writer and I'm also the main writer for the Epiphany podcast. Check out our blog or whatever, you know, and then she gets something out of it. You know what I mean? Same thing with my videographer and editor, right? Imagine Way More, right? I see this going somewhere really big, right? In the sense of like just showcasing people, right? Because it's not necessarily niche, you know. I can have anyone on here, you know, that's I feel passionate about, or I see the passion in them, right?
Yeah.
So with that, Imagine Way More is like a what you call it, like a film company? Yeah. Video production company, right? Like he's one of the main fronts for the Epiphany podcast. So when this gets really big, who does all this production?
Yeah.
Imagine Way More.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to figure out how I can offer the most value to them, and also them help me.
100%. Well, I mean, that's what every single relationship should be.
Yeah.
It should
in
be
theory.
mutual, you know? Yeah, in theory, of course,
Right?
yeah. But it's like every relationship should be mutual, especially creatively, you know? And it's like, I think that's an example of like something that's awkward and weird to talk about. It's like the place where creative collaborator and friend and roommate and fucking like homie and best friend and boyfriend and girlfriend and partner and
it's touchy.
Yeah, and like business partner, and it's like, where do all those weird lines like cross in creativity? It's bizarre. It's really, really, really touchy.
Yeah.
But it's like you got to be as open and communicative about those things as possible. Otherwise, they're trying to go to shit. Like I was listening to Brockhampton's one of my favorite musical acts ever. And I was listening to The Family, their last project on the way here. And I was listening to Kevin Abstract talk about his relationships with the other members of the band, and just kind of how they deteriorated over time. And it's like it seemed like it was he has this thing where he's talking about there's like this little interlude, this excerpt, difficult word to say, excerpt, yeah, passage in the album where he's talking about how like he'd be on personal phone calls with like members of the band, and then he'd like have his film guy there, and he'd be like, hey, make sure you're getting this, make sure you're recording this.
Okay.
And then it's like he developed that incredibly unhealthy relationship with art and like the friendships that come with art.
Yeah.
So it's like, at what point does a collaborator and friend, like at what point do those lines blur? It's really weird. Yeah, that's really awkward.
I bet, because like something that me and my editor are very good about are that me and him both agree on, that we are big on over communication.
Yeah, you got to.
Because then it's like, okay, sick. There's no room for like question. Like if I give you everything, then it's not like, fuck, what do I do for this? What do I do for that?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but no, and it's also another thing that's hard for me is like the funding, for example. Like me, like especially my editor is big on like pushing me to like get a sponsor, like doing all of that stuff, because like he sees like the bigger picture, and obviously I'm more vested in the stories, right? But then also, like you say, like it's a business, this is a company,
totally,
you know what I mean? And if I want this to be bigger, then you have to think bigger, you know?
Yes, exactly.
And that was another reason with the J Creates thing. He was telling me like you need a brand that can like it can stand alone, right? Like my Instagram was sbk.valencia or something like that, and he's like, oh, SBK Productions or this and that. So now it's perfect because it's like the Epiphany podcast, right? Then I can have that as like an LLC. It would be like Epiphany Productions, right? Like that can just be its own entity, you know? And that's why I took away George Valencia from the pod. Like if you look at the bio, it says like the host, but I'm trying to find so there's this old like Latino guy that has George Valencia as his Instagram.
Oh, dude, we could talk about this. This is like,
so I'm trying to. I want his name because like when I get verified one day, it'll be George Valencia. Yeah. Right. And then I wanted the Epiphany podcast to be its own standalone thing. Right. Like I can reference. Oh, what do you do? That's what it is.
100%.
I know it's and it's funny also too. Like I think it was Mr. Beast. I don't know who it was, but so like. I've been in not like it's like a healthy competition, obviously, but I've been in competition with your form stuff. I'm like, okay, look at Dante's first videos. I'm like, let me make sure that they're better than that. Right?
They are. Let me tell you that they are, because our early stuff was dog shit. It's so bad. But I'm never gonna take it down ever.
No, I was like,
because I love the idea. You can go back and look at it.
I was about to say like your first video with you and Lance just sitting there talking about like COVID and all these things, that like it's beautiful, bro. Like to see the transformation.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I feel like a child in that video,
dude. And it's so apparent to just like even look back from that video to the Kid Lords video, and then from the Kid Lords video to your second Kid Lords video, and then to now, it's like there's such apparent growth. In so many different regards.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah.
You know what I want to kind of talk to you about that I've always been like, you not open my eyes, but like you made me feel bad about my not my outlook on COVID, but like you make me feel guilty as to how I went about COVID.
What do you mean?
In the sense of like, this is a small town, right? And like I'm not even big into politics either, but from a political standpoint, this town's very like Republican, right? So when all of that was happening, you know how like that all of that went with the two different parties.
Yeah, it became political very quickly,
right? So then, mind you, if this is a really Republican state, it's a farm city, so like farmers and independent. So
as is most of Central Valley,
right? So none of them really took it serious in like to its fullest extent, right? In comparison to like the Bay Area where it's bigger,
totally,
right? So here it was not that big of a deal in the sense of like not that many people were affected by it because we're surrounded by the mountains, bro. Like we're all kind of just to ourselves, you know? So
interesting.
I graduated 2019, right? And I was working at Food for Less, right? Which was also an interesting thing in itself to be working at a grocery store prior to COVID and then be in it at its height,
Yeah.
there. Because I worked there that we didn't shut down. Like,
Same, yeah. I mean, same with me for food service. Shut down for maybe like a month, and then I was doing like to-go food for like a year.
really?
Yeah.
Because like for us, like Food for Less never closed. Like, of course we had to do the mask, and then we did like the number of people in the building and then sanitizing,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
But then for another way I got such a big following was I'm big on parties. I always throw parties, right? Like that's just what I've done, right? So I'm 19, I'm 18, I just graduated, right? We already were throwing parties post high school, right?
Yeah.
Then I graduated in June, right? So for a couple months we threw a Halloween, then we threw a like
Where were you throwing these parties?
random houses.
Okay, yeah.
So I can't throw them in my houses because my following was already too big, and the friend group that I had was
That's
already too
crazy,
big.
yeah.
That we would get that shit shut down ASAP. Like there'd
Yeah.
be like not SWAT, but like cop cars. Like it was crazy.
Yeah.
So then we slowly just started being like, hey, who's down to give us a house? We'll pay you about $200 or like $150, and then
People do anything for $200, bro. That's crazy.
so that's kind of why. And then people just wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to be like, oh, this is my house that we're throwing the big party in, right?
That's such an interesting like thought experiment.
Literally.
People want to be a part of something so bad that they're
Right?
like, yeah, you could trash the shit out of my house as long as my
Literally.
name's on it.
That's so true. And
Yeah.
that's kind of why I was like, I'm never going to throw it at my house. You know what I
No,
mean?
yeah.
So then that's how that happened. But mind you, all of COVID, we were throwing parties,
Interesting, okay.
like big parties, right? And then I hear like you and Lance talking about in that very first one, right?
Yeah.
Talking about like, dude, people are throwing parties. Like, I can't believe like at least like not with 300 plus people. I can't believe that. And I'm watching it like with that, like the eyes, the lips, the eyes emoji, where it's just like,
I appreciate your honesty.
yeah. So I was just like, damn, like COVID was such a formative time for you, right? Because that's
Totally,
where
yeah.
where Above the Bridge came from.
Yeah, I mean, it well, that's the thing, right? It existed before COVID.
Okay.
But, like, not in the form it is now. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like COVID was, like, when I started to think about, like, what it could be. Before that, it was a blog.
Yeah.
Before that, it was an Instagram account and a blog, and
Yeah.
that was it. It was fun. I was going to go, like, I was a writer. I was going to go, like,
Okay.
to San Jose State for journalism and, like, go try to write for, like, Pitchfork or, like, go try to write for, like, Rolling Stone or, like, Consequence of
Okay.
Sound or, like, I wanted to be a music journalist.
Okay.
And I had only recently figured that out when I during COVID.
Yeah.
And then my eyes kind of started to open like a lot. And I started to, where my eyes really started to open was when I kind of went down the Lyrical Lemonade pipeline. And Clover Band was probably my biggest eye opener. When I realized like, wow, what I'm doing could be more than like what it is right now.
That makes
And
sense.
then it was like interesting because that was 2020. That was when like No Jumper really started popping.
Yeah.
And I was really staying tuned to their stuff.
Do you watch No Jumper?
I hate No Jumper.
I don't like No Jumper at all.
It-
Especially
it-
in the past like 8 months. Like
Which sucks because I used to love No Jumper, man.
Yeah.
Watching the fall of No Jumper and the decline of like where that has gone
it's kind of sad.
really sucks because that's like a big influence of me in the early days, like 2018,
Yeah.
2019, and then it's like now like I feel ashamed to say that because I hate what they've become.
Yeah, literally, it's
But-
more like a talk show, like a drama, like.
It's like TMZ for people who like hip hop.
Yeah, that's actually interesting.
But
Yeah.
but it's like it's I mean that's a whole nother thing. It's like
That is.
but I mean even beyond like but regardless, yeah, it was like so like I think Lyrical Lemonade really like opened my eyes to like what I was doing and like
Yeah.
what it could be.
Mhm.
And you know, it first was a blog and then like after the blog I kind of realized like COVID, like I mean kind of we were talking about this in the beginning. COVID was like a period of experimentation for me. It was like I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know where I was, and it was just a matter of figuring it out. So it was
Yeah.
like I remember like during COVID I would sit in my bed
Yeah.
and I would listen to a record like 3 or 4 times, and then I would go and I'd walk from like my house to like there was like a trail behind my parents' house. I'd take that trail to like this creek, and I'd go sit by this creek, and I'd listen to like whatever record I was trying to figure out that time, and this was in 2020. Then I would
Yeah.
come back and I'd write about it, and I would post it, and that was that. It was fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. But it was like then very slowly that kind of gained a following and like a cool community.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, what if I did interviews with this? And then like from there, I started doing video essays. And then I made this Oliver Tree video essay that did really well. It has like 50,000 views on YouTube. And then I was like, okay, I'm really good at storytelling.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to tell stories. And that was where the greater vision kind of began to form. But I don't think I fully understood what I wanted this to be until I threw my first show. That was when I was like, okay.
Yeah, that show was such a big thing for you, and it was so
It was huge.
like, and it's kind of inspiring too, because of, like, to see how, and for you to vocalize like all of your thoughts about that, and like the blackout, and like you being so frustrated, like everything that could have went wrong. You know what I mean? But you're vocalizing. You're not just like, oh, it was a good show, and then you just move on. You're like, no, you're actually telling people.
It wasn't. Fuck that.
No.
like I hate when people do that, you know? It's like,
yeah.
Like we did everything we could. Like it wasn't like an above the bridge mess up. It was a random freak of nature that,
Fucking
like
Frisco.
Yeah. They're like half of the power in the city went out like the night that we decided to throw a show. The night where like above the bridge was really changing and turning. And I think that is like that's the gut punch though.
Yeah.
That's the universe gut checking you. That's like the moment where like this could become more, and then it's like the universe asking like, do you really give a shit? Like, how bad do you really want this?
Yeah.
Like, can I punch you in the throat right now, and will you get up and punch me back? You know,
that makes sense.
Like, yeah. So it was like, I'm so grateful for that, and being able to like, like the second it happened, I wanted it to be a story.
Mm-hmm.
The second that like that blackout happened, I was like, how can we make this like a story?
Yeah.
Or like, how can we like tell a story here? Because that's what always where my mind is. My mind is on storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how can we get to a place where it's like this is a story, and it's like, wow, this whole thing is a story.
Yeah.
This happening by itself, like the freak of nature that's happening, and like the way that we can bounce back from this and rebound, and the perseverance that we can like do it again is a storyline. That second show that we like the redo of the first show, it was amazing because of the fact that the first one sucked.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Like it became a storyline. It was like people wanted to go, and they were like, they wanted to see this work.
Yeah.
And that's what was exciting about it.
Because what is it now? Like you have like what you've done like 4 shows?
It's 4. Throwing our 5th one, September 8th, which should be announced tomorrow.
Was September 8th you're throwing one?
Yeah.
Is it in LA?
Yeah.
What day? Why do you always throw shows on Wednesdays?
No, this one's a Friday.
It's a Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm gonna have to.
Bro,
we're gonna talk about that actually. So I can go out there September 8th.
Yeah.
Okay. Fuck it. I think I could figure something out.
Dude, that'd be amazing. Yeah.
Dude, I've been so upset that like the past like one of your last shows, the one that Monet was at and Lance were at, that was on a Wednesday.
Yeah, that was on Wednesday.
And I was pissed because I work Sunday to Wednesday.
That one I wish we could have done on a weekend, but like
how was the turnout for that?
Oh, really good.
Yeah?
I was very happy with it. Yeah. Very happy. That one I wish we could have done on a weekend, but like I wanted to do it on the day. Like I wanted to do it on the 5-year anniversary day.
Oh, okay.
And that just happened to be a Wednesday.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but I was like, I want to do it on that day. So
so bringing that, how do you walk me through throwing shows?
Mm-hmm.
Like I like obviously you briefly touch on it. Like it's so easy. It's just a stream of emails, right? But like, what's the like just walk me through. Like, let's say you're throwing a show. Like, how does that first come up?
Yeah, I think anybody who's super into music or very into music scene or wants a way to like be involved in music scene should throw a show. It's as from the promotional stance, it's a lot easier than like I think some people want you to make it think. It's like it's a whole industry in itself. So it's like people will gatekeep it and try to make it seem a lot more complicated than it is. But I mean, I say this like I say it so much you already knew what I was gonna say. I was like, it's simply a stream of emails and text messages and phone calls. But how it works is like you can start with a couple different things. You can start with the venue, you can start with the lineup, or you can start with like neither. That's a lot harder. But it's like how I kind of go about it is like everything else I do. I want our shows to be catered around storytelling. So I only want every show, and I mean, this is a whole other thing. This probably excites me more than anything else we do. So it's like, I love talking about this.
Yeah.
But every show that we throw, I want there to be like a story behind it. I want to have a story to tell. I want it to be a memory in somebody's head. Like, I don't want it to just be a random concert with 3 random artists that don't make sense together and there's no theme and there's no central idea. I want the branding and the marketing and the vision and the artists on the bill and like the entire environment to be curated in such an ultra specific way that it creates such a core memory in somebody's head. They're like, I remember this show because of that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, I almost think about it like video games. It's like, it's like, what about or video games or movies, right? It's like you remember where you were the first time you played your very favorite game. You remember where you were the first time you like watched your very favorite movie or read your first favorite book.
Yeah.
It's like I want people to think about like every show that we throw as like a very specific core memory, and it's like this was a pivotal moment in my life. Like I want it to be something where somebody's like, oh, like I remember that this happened around the time of the 12th ATV show or like the 15th ATV show. Yeah. It's like I want that to be the case. So it's like I want everyone to have a very specific theme and tell a very specific story, and a lot of that goes into the marketing of it. So a lot of that is in tandem with Edward. Shout out to Edward Toucan. Shout out Edward. Toucan is one of the most talented individuals I've ever met, and he does all of our flyers and all of our poster art. And the poster art's a very important part of like how I kind of go about throwing shows. I want each one to tell a story. So like I want every flyer to have we have a very big vision for like, where we want to bring this part of the brand, but I want every flyer to be a comic cover of what it is that you may or may not experience at this event. And that's why I want everyone to have a theme. Mm-hmm. So like for Family Ties, for example, that one was one of my favorites in terms of thematics. It's like, okay, what is the goal? What is the crazy thing we're trying to accomplish here? Okay, it's like, okay, let's put 4 hip hop groups in one building the same night. My 4 favorite hip hop groups like in the Bay Area. Like, how can we put them all together on one night for like a bigger representation of like what the underground hip hop culture is? Oh shit! So it's like okay, let's do that. That's the goal, right? That's the very specific like nature of the event. So that's like that's kind of like your what, and then like outside of that, it's like what is the branding behind that? So every show has a title. I want every show to have a title. I want them all to feel like stories. So that was Family Ties. So Above the Bridge presents Family Ties. Yeah. A bill full of 4 hip hop groups. Yeah. So that was like the story behind that one. And it's like, okay, what's the marketing? I marketed it like a video game. The entire like makeup of like everything that we put out, like material wise and promo wise for that show, was like centered around a video game. So it's like the flyer was a remake of a Super Smash Bros. Loading screen with like all of the characters drawn, but like instead of like the characters from Super Smash Bros, it's the artist on the bill. And then it was like, okay, the third one is like, what is the plan for like 3 as a crowd, right? So it's like, okay, it's our third show. I want to do 3 acts on a bill. I want it to be the like as close of a resemblance to like the classic Bay Area band 3-band bill as I could possibly do, because those are the shows that I grew up going to. Yeah. So I was like, okay, let me make this feel like a Bay Area 3-band bill. So it was 3 as a crowd. And then show number 4, it was like the friends we made along the way. It was the 5-year anniversary show. It was telling the story of how we got to where we are right now. That was like why I wanted it to be huge. That was why I wanted it to have like all these people that were pivotal to like Above the Bridge history, and like you know, like it was that one had to be bigger. So that makes sense. Yeah, so that one had to be a big event. So Lodge Room was the perfect venue for that. This next one that we're doing, we're trying to figure out a title right now, but it's an all-female charity show. Oh, that's dope. Yeah, so the entire lineup is females, and
this one's gonna come out in a few weeks. So can you tell me like who's
totally
gonna be on the thing?
Totally. So Ellie Williams is headlining, and then G. Lene, Maddie Davis, and Emmy Grace.
Oh, Maddie Davis is gonna be there.
Yeah, she's
dude, that's dope. I want to see her perform. Dude.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited for that. It'll be so sick. But
how do you go about sorry to cut you off. How do you go about finding the venues? Is it just any venue that was willing to let you throw the show?
It's got to be venues that I've been to that I liked going to. So like there's venues that like I've been to a bunch of times that I will never throw shows at. Like for example, like this feels like shade. I don't mean like shade. But like I don't think I'd ever throw a venue like Rickshaw Stop in San Francisco, because I've just gone there and seen like just like some issues like sound and stuff and things that are very specific. But like I don't think I'd ever throw a show there because of that. You know, like Brick and Mortar I went to for a long time. And
that's like your spot. I always hear you talk about that. Would you ever throw a show again there?
Yeah, I would like to. They're kind of going in a different direction because they got their liquor license now and they're doing more 21 plus shows, and that's something I don't want to do. Above the Bridge is very...
It's inclusive.
Yeah, we will never throw above... Exactly. It's very inclusive. We will never throw 21 plus shows. A lot of the reason of that is like, if there were not all ages venues and like all ages shows in the Bay Area when I was growing up, I would not be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah,
right now.
That makes sense.
100% not. So it's like I never want to throw a show that excludes those people from going. Mm-hmm. But we're never interested in doing 21 plus shows, and for their business, it makes more sense. Brick and mortar's growing.
Yeah.
They want to throw shows that are more profitable, so it makes more sense for them to do that. That's awesome. I'm so happy
Yeah.
for them. Like, all those guys are amazing to me. They're good friends, and I'm very happy for them. But yes, I don't know if we're gonna be doing anything else there. Maybe in the future, we'll see. But yeah. So like the show in September, very excited about it. Every act on the bill is a female artist, and we're gonna donate all 100% of the proceeds to Girls Rising, which is a female-based education charity.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah,
bro.
so I'm really excited.
That's
So
really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm very passionate about this one. So
Yeah.
it's like a full female bill, and the marketing for it is obviously that catered around like women empowerment and like helping third world country women get like education and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited about like the marketing,
Yeah.
the flyer for it. So that's something I'd love to talk about too, like the way that we kind of look at our flyers. But
Sure, yeah.
the one we're doing for this one is like a remake of an old Powerpuff Girls comic book.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's like we're making all the artists on the bill characters, and then they're gonna be the Powerpuff Girls fighting like the ATB man that we put on all the posters.
Shit.
Yeah,
I like
so
that.
I want all the flyers to be so specific. Like, I feel so lucky to work with Toucan because he's like
Yeah.
one of the craziest artists I've ever seen. So like, I feel like our show flyers are just really fucking sick.
Do you have
And
like flyers like because obviously it's all like most of the marketing's online.
Yeah.
Do you have like actual like flyers?
So we print all those out as posters and sell them at every show.
Dude, I'm gonna have to get.
Yeah.
If I can go, bro, I'm gonna have to get one of those.
Thanks,
bro.
man. Yeah, so that's like a big part of like the future with the show too. It's like I want those to be collectibles. I want there
Yeah.
to be like 100 of those that we turn into a comic. And it's like we're beginning to kind of roll out the early stages of like the ATB man that we put like on each of the flyers, that alien looking guy with the A on his head. So we want to roll that out and kind of like make him a physical character in the Above the Bridge universe. And like I want him to exist in like in different forms, and like I want him to pop up in like different videos we do, and like I want him to like be a symbol in like different parts of the brand and things that we're doing. And it's like every single flyer will have him. He's gonna be the character that represents the shows. I want him to be like a touchstone in that universe. I want him to have his own world. I want to do merch with him. I want to like tell his
That's
story.
sick.
I want him to be a symbol,
Yeah.
And that's all. I mean, that all comes from the brain of Edward. Like, Edward's a genius. Shout out to Toucan. But I'm very happy to work with him, and I'm very, very, very excited about that. So it's like hopefully in the next year, like there will be on show like 15 or 16, and then like we will have like those flyers made into a comic book.
Yeah.
And then we're selling that comic book.
Dude, that'd be so dope.
Yeah.
And just to see like how this is going to progress over the years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's crazy because there's so much apparent growth every like I would even say year, because it's just like every couple months like you guys are doing like different stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm trying to always expand. I mean, that's like one thing I learned very early was like, dude, like you never feel like scared to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
Like you should be reinventing yourself every single day. Like there should never be a period where you're like, oh, people expect this from me, so I only want to do this because that's what they expect. That's silly. You should always be doing what you think is like the best for you moving forward.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to try as many things as possible. I want this to go in as many different directions as possible. I want to like fully reinvent Above the Bridge every year in the form that I think makes the most sense in the current moment.
That makes sense. And I'm kind of curious, like with like the event, like talking about the events and stuff like that in venues. COVID, I remember you were talking about a lot of venues had troubles, right? Like starting. I mean, like getting through it.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about Slim's, Bottom of the Hill, Gilman's. Are all of those still up and running, or did some of them close down?
Some closed down.
Really?
Honey Hive Gallery in SF closed down. Rest in peace. Gilman's struggling.
Really?
But it's kind of on its it's around. They're still kicking. They're still pushing. But Bottom of the Hill, I mean, they're going strong. Bottom of the Hill is a very interesting model. Like
I've never been there. I want to go there. Like, you talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, they do shows like every day. Like,
really?
Yeah, which is sick. It's pretty cool. But like their whole model, they're still kicking and chugging. But it's a difficult. I feel like that'd be a very difficult thing to do as a venue owner. Be able to like keep that afloat, and I don't know. That's kind of my 10-year goal.
To have your own venue.
Yeah.
That'd be sick.
By I'm 30, that's like by 30, that's where I want to be. I want there to be an Above the Bridge venue in San Francisco, and I want it to have its own scene curated around it. And I want to help fuel underground music in San Francisco. That's like one of my biggest goals. Like on my list, that's like that's like number one.
Which is kind of interesting because originally you went to LA, right, to find more stories because
Yeah.
like you've said, there's like a cap that you feel is in the Bay, right, and stuff like that. So you went out, and one day you want to come back. When do you feel like it'd be time to come back? Do you just feel like you would know, or is there like a certain agenda that you're looking for in LA?
I think I'm getting to the point where I've kind of so I think I went to LA fully anticipating like not liking it.
Really?
But I love it.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that I have the community around me that I do, and that's why I like it.
Yeah.
Cities are cities to me outside of San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, San Francisco is my favorite place in the world, but every other city to me is like whatever. It's a city. It's cool.
Yeah.
But the community that I have in LA, I feel very lucky to have. Same with the community here. So I want to have both those. So in terms of like the way that I want to live moving forward, I mean, I'm very lucky to have gotten this job as like a network manager at this media company. So I hopefully within like 4 to 5, hopefully within like anywhere between like the next month, like the next 3 months, I should be able to be like a full-time creative, which I'm very, very
dope.
Grateful for. And it feels very rewarding after 5 years of working in restaurants.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I bet, bro.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing that like, I hope I'm giving myself a little longer. I want to give myself at least a year to 2 years. Even at that is like that's kind of short, but like I want to give myself like at least a year of grinding on this, and then one day just quit my job, man.
Yeah.
Because I can't see myself working a 9 to 5. And shout out to anyone that does do that.
Totally.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but that specific thing, I just can't see myself doing that, But then also, like being constantly watching like what you do and stuff like that, I also have to realize that like we're all on our own timeline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And I look at what you do and have to remind myself, like I be scrolling because I've already watched all of the videos, so I'm like I have to like okay, and then I find myself, I'm like, dude, he's been doing this for 5 years, like you said, like 5 years. It's like I just started this 8 months ago, 9 months ago. Like slow down, like it's okay. You don't have to be like so much pressure on myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult. I think like one thing that's helped me a lot, because I mean, dude, especially in LA, man, like you talk about comparing yourself to people, like that's the mecca of comparing yourself to people.
Yeah.
as Los Angeles, California, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's so difficult to not compare yourself to people there. You can within 3 swipes find somebody more talented than you. Within like 2 parties, you can find somebody that like you want to be. It's very easy to get to that place, but you have to understand that everybody's on their own path. And I think one thing that I've gotten really good at is like not good at, but like a lot better at is not doing that. And I think one way that I've been able to do that is learning to ground myself through like the thought process that, all right, Dante, you're 21. Like I've only been able to legally have a beer for 7 months. Like I don't have to have a full media empire yet. Like I've been able to like slow down and think like, dude, I'm 21. I serve tables 3 days a week, 5 days or 4 days a week. I get to do what I love full time. Yeah. At 21 years old. That's crazy. Internally lucky. I am so grateful. Yeah. So lucky. Like I need to realize like that's a privilege. I need to realize that like that is already like the 1% of people who want to make art are people who get to do it semi full time. Literally. So it's like I think to kind of circle back to what you were saying, it's like I'm getting to a place now where it's like as soon as I can be a full time creative, which is I'm very close. I want to live half-time in the Bay Area, half-time in LA. Really? Yeah. So like what I think I'd do, I'd have to figure out the logistics as it comes closer. But I think right now the plan is like once I can be full-time creative, I think what I'll do is I'll live in my house in LA for 3-4 months at a time. Stockpile content, do whatever, and then I'll come to the Bay for like a month or 2 months, live with my parents, spend time with my family, and shoot that way, and like just work from remotely, because that's another gigantic appeal of like doing what we do is like you can do it from anywhere. There's George Carlin says this thing that I love. He said as a podcaster you're selling a series of zeros and ones. I think that's very very true. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's like we're very lucky. And I for me, it's kind of dope because watching what you do and kind of circling to the moving to LA vlog, right? That was a beautiful one for me because I didn't really do like the full research to back this, but you could probably tell me. But like
it was funny to see that vlog because there was so many faces that were going to be on Above the Bridge, right?
I love that. I'm so happy you said that.
Like
Yeah.
because like Paco,
Yeah.
Maddie Davis, Nemo Lakes, right?
Damn, that's crazy. I haven't even thought about it like that.
Like,
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
and also too, I forgot her name. I forgot to write it down. But the stylist for the Kid Lords, she's kind of shorter. She does designs. Kalena, yeah. Like obviously,
shout
out
Kalena.
Shout out Kalena, dude. I met her at that show.
Yeah,
that I seen you at.
Kalena's the best.
But yeah, that was interesting to me because it was like looking into your future. You know what I mean? It's like, because cool. Watching all of these things already, and then I see these people, I'm like, dude, this person was already there. This person was already there. It's like an Easter egg.
Thanks, man.
You know what I mean?
That's amazing. Thank you. That's like very much where, I didn't think about that in the moment, of course, but like, I love that. I love that was the thing looking back at. I mean, I think that speaks volumes to like
literally how
important it is sometimes as a creative to like just have a camera in your hand. I just started this thing that I'm really excited about. I started it this month. I have a camcorder. And it's like I started shooting interviews on it. It's like a Canon. I don't know what it's called. It's like a Canon Handycam of some sort.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it has 57 times zoom. Like it's like the craziest. The old camcorder zooms are crazy. Yeah, but it's 57 times zoom, so it's kind of like a shit posty camera.
Oh shit!
But it's super fun. So and it's small. It fits in my pocket. So I've been bringing it everywhere with me. So I'm kind of inspired by that iPhone vlog. Yeah. I'm gonna make camcorder vlogs every month.
That's
forward.
dope.
I'm gonna try to. So that's gonna be one of the kind of what I was telling you, how the third video of every week. I want to be like a random revolving thing. The third video of every video of every month should be a camcorder vlog. So the third video of the third week of every month.
And that would really help also to be like to help being present.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
totally.
just being in the moment with your friends,
which is hard.
I mean, for me, I mean, like I tell people, I'm my own best friend.
That's awesome, man. That's you know, sick.
Like, because I don't really have a social circle at all like as of right now. So it's like your content and kind of like all of basically your content is kind of like my social circle in the sense of like human interaction, like seeing other people, you know. But
thank you, man.
Hell yeah, bro. This was really touching to me. Act two of the vlog, right? And then obviously I'm not gonna read the whole speech, right? But that whole thing was like crazy to me, right? And also like if like this is like one of those things that if you really paid attention, right? How the backtracking of that, like you hear, was it you talking? Like where like there's music, like there's audio in the background. Is that you talking or who is that?
I'm so happy. Wow. Thank you for paying such close attention. Yeah. So
I was trying to, I really like literally redid that like 3 times trying to like hear it.
You're
like,
an amazing interviewer, man. That's awesome. So what that is I drove to LA by myself to sign our lease because all the other guys were working at this point. I had put my 2 weeks in. I had like a month, or not a month. I had like I think 2 weeks where I wasn't working. Yeah. Because I had put my 2 weeks in. I had the money. You know, I had worked fucking 40 hours a week for 8 months prior at a restaurant. So so I had saved up the money. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna put my 2 weeks in, get ready to move. So I went down to sign our lease. Because it was gonna be like a 3-week process if we like mailed it back and forth, and it would have like delayed us moving by a month. And I was like, I don't want to do that, so I just drove down. But I drove down, and that drive was one of the most thought-provoking drives I think I've ever had. It was just like 5 a.m. I left, and it felt like I was like, opening a new door and like looking inside. And when I opened the door, I saw the next 5 years of my life.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a really, really crazy, like, thought-provoking drive. And I had all these thoughts, and I just couldn't stop thinking. I feel like my mind is constantly on. I feel like anybody who knows me like can attest to that. Like my mind's constantly on. But making that drive felt very cathartic. It felt very like I was driving to like subliminally begin a new chapter of my life, and it was
that's what it felt
really really strange. But I was so every time I had one of those thoughts, I opened my phone and I took the voice memo of like whatever I was just thinking in the moment. That's and awesome. Then I put those, I took those, I exported them, I put them in Premiere, I put a bandpass filter on them, and then I put them below this music just so you could like faintly make out what I was saying.
Yeah.
but not fully hear it, because I don't even think I fully knew what I was saying. I don't even think I fully was aware of like what was going to happen in this next chapter of my life, but I was trying to comprehend it in my head in real time.
Yeah.
So I put that underneath it so you could hear my voice very, very faintly.
Yeah.
But
which I was trying to make out, and I was like, fuck. And then I also really like the music choice for Act 2, because it also give off like a sense of like you're saying goodbye.
Yes.
Like you're saying goodbye to like something, you know what I mean? And I was just like, how was that for you? Like, I bet that was like, I bet it was, for me anyways, I've never really left this town, you know what I mean? But I bet that was also bittersweet a little bit, right?
Yeah,
like you're like, I'm actually going to LA, like this is my dream, but then it's also like you're saying goodbye to a chapter in a sense, you know?
100%. I mean, yeah, that song I used, it's from the movie Her. It's by Arcade Fire. That soundtrack's amazing. But yeah, it was weird. It was I had felt like I had been so lucky to curate, not curate, it was already a thing, but like be allowed into the gates of this beautiful community of musicians and creatives in the Bay Area. And I was so grateful for it. And I felt like there was a movement happening. Yeah. And then I felt like I had personally gotten to a place where my goals and what I had wanted to accomplish were more realistic if I was in different places at the same time. I wanted to keep meeting people like beyond. I wanted to keep growing and meeting other individuals and just have this gigantic network of people to work with. I felt like I'd been so lucky to meet all the people I had in the Bay Area. So lucky. And I have so many memories of those people. Yeah. Just like random nights in random studios and random places in the city that I didn't know where I was or how I freaking got there. Or like just so many crazy stories of people that like, these people that like at one time were strangers to me or faces on Instagram that had become friends. Yeah. And leaving all that behind was so bittersweet. Yeah. But I wanted to build it again.
That makes sense.
I want to keep building it. Yeah. And I want to build it like every couple years for the rest of my life. I don't think there's a cap on like the amount of people that we can meet in this life, the amount of people that we can be with or like become friends with or like love or like have in our life or have in our circle. Literally. So it's like if you can rebuild that time and time again, I think you should. And I'm happy I did, because I think the you know, obviously there's the career aspect of it. I don't want to act like that doesn't exist, you know, like the career aspect of it for Above the Bridge has been amazing. I've gotten amazing opportunities, and a large part of it was having a studio for me as well. But it was like, you know, it was having a studio, it was finding another community to tap into, and then growing personally. I wanted to move out. I wanted to be on my own. I wanted to take the jump.
And that's brave, bro. Yeah. Like it takes a lot of bravery and courage to do that. You know,
I had a safety net. I didn't want it anymore. And I wanted to cut it.
Like literally, what you said in your thing is escape what matters to you, until you undeniably do it. Until the fear that once brought to you becomes comfort. Do it until your fear turns into growth. Right? Like that's a beautiful thing, bro. Like,
thank you, man.
I feel like, and hopefully with this pod, bro, people like start to like watch your content from here. That
thank you,
because there's so much different that you can take from it, like we've previously talked about, bro. Like it's crazy. And I feel like that pod in itself, I mean that episode in itself is slept on. Like,
which one?
The vlog.
Thank you, man.
Dude, that's a slept on vlog, man.
Thank you. I'm proud of it. That's why I really want to do more things. I really want to get into like doing more stuff like that, because I feel like I'm a storyteller, and I don't want to just tell stories in one format. But thank you so much. Like that, I'm very. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's weird looking back at like writing that now. I wrote that sitting in my empty living room by myself. Yeah. The day that I signed my lease, and it was like a very, very emotional state and a very emotional day in my life. And it was like, holy shit! Like, what am I doing?
Yeah, that's probably like, I could imagine, bro. Like,
but yeah, it was like that week though. Like literally that month had like proved to me that like I made the right choice.
Yeah, that makes sense. And for me on a smaller scale, that's why it was kind of funny. Like I was texting you that it was more full circle to have Dro on first and then you. Yeah. Because he was the one that introduced me to you, right? For me, that's me having that realization, but with this, right? So the same way that you had that in LA is how I'm having it here, which is bittersweet for me, in the sense of like, I've never had a passion before, and then you're someone that helped me like find my passion, right? And then also bittersweet in the sense of like my mom always wished I had my mom always wanted me to find my passion, right? But her not being able to see it, right? And it was really hard because it's like this is like living proof to me personally. Like of course I'm showing people like for their passions, right? But for my personal passion, this is me like finding like damn, like finally I'm doing something that I love and I've actually put in the work, and here I am like actually getting able to fucking do it. You know what I mean? And then to have the person that like sparked that in me here, it's like damn, like it's really like surreal for me personally.
Thank you.
You know
man.
what I mean?
Thank you so much. I really that means the world to me. Seriously, thank you. Like the idea like I inspired you is like that means everything to me. So thank you so much.
And it's kind of interesting too in a sense,
whole goal.
like literally because
it's the only reason I do this.
And what's funny is I barely took any musical things from it. Like
Interesting, yeah.
you know what I mean? Of course, like I find like everyone's story interesting.
That's so cool to me though. Like I love that. That actually is very validating because I feel like that is like what I want. Like I want the content to be relatable because it's good content.
Literally, and this is proof that like I and me and all of this is waking proof that you're not throwing this into a void.
Thank you, man. I that means thank you, bro. That's very, very comforting. I appreciate it. It's difficult to understand that sometimes. You know, it's very easy to be like, I'm sure you get it. You know, just like throwing things up. Like, is somebody watching this? Is somebody not? And it's weird. Even like interviews that have like 200, 300 views. It's weird to think about. Like, oh, that's. In my head, it's like oh, it's nobody, but like, dude, that's 300 people. Like,
yeah,
it's a lot of people.
I don't know if I think it was you, like probably one of your interviews that reiterated that to me. That I'm like, I'm so thankful that I was just talking to him off camera that there was another guy that has been doing this that has a bigger following than me that only had like maybe like under 100 views for each video, right? But then I was like, I'm so thankful for the fact that like over 100 plus people watch each of our episodes.
Yeah,
and I'm like, dude, like. Put that into perspective for people, like especially like,
that's a lot of fucking people. It's really weird. You don't think about it, right? Like for me, it was so easy to get down on myself in the early days and be like, this has like 90 views. This has like 300 views. This has 400 views. It's like
put those in a a room though.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah,
fuck.
exactly.
That's a lot of fucking people.
100%. Like I think about like that the Kid Lords episode I did. It has like I don't know like over like almost like has like 1,500 views or like
roughly
1,400 or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, like that, like that's like in my head. It's like, oh, that's nothing on YouTube, but it's like, dude, why am I thinking of on YouTube?
Who cares?
Yeah, like how about in real life? Like it's a lot of people. Like,
no, like also I have like an analytic here for you that it's like looking at all of your videos, right? You have 208 videos total on Above the Bridge, right? You have over 100 and 100,000 and basically like 1,200 views total.
128,000?
No, 100. The fuck? Why can't I read that number today? Jesus Christ! What the fuck is
102,000.
102,000. Jesus, that's a Pacheco education.
That's good. No way you do the Pacheco reference out there.
Wait. What?
Is that?
What do you think that is?
Is that the name of your school?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Well, what do you think that was?
There's a town east of Concord, California, where I grew up called Pacheco, and the town is like probably the size of this neighborhood.
Oh shit! What the fuck?
Yeah, and no one knows it exists.
Oh no.
Yeah. Anyway, though, that's crazy. 102. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. The fact that it exists is wild.
No, I was laughing because that's the name of my high school, Pacheco High School, and I'm like, that's a Pacheco education for you. But
damn, that's a lot, dude. That's humbling to hear.
Like if you really think about it,
I never look at that stuff, but I should more. Yeah.
Like even if those are like someone like me that is a recurring viewer, 100,000 people have seen the Above the Bridge just off of YouTube.
That's cool.
That's fucking crazy, bro. Yeah. Like that's a whole venue. That's a whole stadium.
Yeah. That's crazy to think about, man. Yeah, it's wild. And it's even crazier when I think about like, dude, I was just bored. I was just bored in a movie theater. I was bored and I love music and I didn't know what to do.
And like even on Reels too, for example, like Reels are another thing that like you get so much more reach on. You know what I mean? Like
totally.
Like me and him were just talking off camera that we were hyped that like one of our things is getting almost to 10K.
Hell yeah!
And I'm like, dude, that's fucking crazy. Like I don't know. I don't think I would be as calm as if I had 10,000 people live streaming watching this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that'd be fucking
That'd be a lot.
That would be nerve wracking,
Yeah,
bro. Like
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
get into this app called Amp.
Amp is sick, dude. Yeah,
Do you know
John
what-
Boy Media does a lot of their stuff on Amp.
Really?
They have like a partnership with them, so they run a lot of their programs through Amp. It's interesting to me. I've thought a lot about it.
Really,
Yeah.
I want to do something on there. You know what I mean? Because I also seen that like an ad on
Amp's
Instagram.
cool, yeah.
That you can get paid off of there.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, dude, this is like literally something I can get. I
Yeah.
can get paid for doing.
Live
you know?
podcasting is kind of cool. We've had some different thoughts about it. I had a friend bring up to me recently the prospect of doing a live podcast, and there were like a lot of I had a pretty good opportunity to do like a pretty big live podcast, and I didn't do it because I don't know if it's something I want to do yet, but I'm very interested in it.
Yeah.
Like I do think it's something that I want to do in the future.
Live in what sense? Like virtually or
At
like
a
a live
venue.
show? Oh, what
Yeah.
the fuck?
At a venue.
Sorry to cut you off. No Jumper was starting to do that,
They did it. Yeah, they did that a couple times.
right?
Yeah, but that was before Adam22 decided that he wanted to expose the sex lives of all of his coworkers.
Yeah, that was fucking stupid.
Fucking
bro.
weirdo.
I know,
Yeah,
fuck
but-
that shit.
yeah, but-
he lost a fan with me on that one. Bro.
Yeah, man, he's a weirdo. But
Yeah,
anyways, yeah, but the live podcast thing is an interesting prospect to me too. It's like I do think there's a big space for that.
What is your? Do you have any like worst interview stories? Like shit.
Yes.
Like, you know, obviously you don't have to name drop because we don't name drop. But like, has it either do you have a worst story or like an interview or like a guest that was just like a straight D bag or like any like crazy shit?
One of the first interviews I ever did was with an artist that I felt like I was not ready to interview at that time because I didn't know what I was doing yet. I didn't know my process. Like I didn't know like how I wanted to do this. I didn't like have any real inspirations in the space. I didn't know what I was doing yet. Part of like learning what you're doing is just doing and figuring it out along the way. And I hadn't done like I hadn't done like, you know, if the way that you learn what you're doing is by doing, I hadn't done.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah, but so I had a guest very early that was a very, very big artist. And it was the second interview I'd ever done. And that interview went like incredibly poorly. It was very awkward. It was very
Really?
strange. It was a very big artist, and that artist didn't want me to put the interview out.
Really?
Yeah, because it was weird, and like I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to go like fully off the dome, but I didn't have the practice to do that yet. And also like that just wasn't like a good mindset. I feel like it was so much in the mindset like I want this to be as genuine and natural of a conversation as it possibly can. It's like that made me like neglect to like write down questions. Or like neglect to like understand what it was that I was doing really, or like have a process. But it's like that loss was like one of the most important moments and like biggest turning points in like my process of becoming an interviewer. Because like I did that, and then I was crushed after, dude. That was like probably
Really?
the only like one of the only times I've thought about like stopping.
No shit.
Yeah, I was crushed.
Even though that was your second interview.
Yeah, because I just didn't at that point. I was like, I don't know if I can do this,
Yeah.
and I was wrong. I knew I could, but like you know, it was
You just
it
did
was,
it. Yeah.
yeah, it was a weird moment, but it was very, very difficult because like it was so awkward. I feel like I had like embarrassed myself in front of somebody that I really, really respected and really looked up to.
That makes sense.
But it was really, really strange, man, and it was like a bad experience, but it was awkward, and I'm very grateful that it happened because like the following 2 months, I put my head the fuck down. Like I like took a step back and was like, okay, what am I doing? What do I want these to feel like? What do I want these to look like? Who do I want to talk to? Like, what do I want out of this?
Okay.
I sat down and really asked myself that question. And that was where I first understood, like, the value in losing. And, like, the value in, like, learning from those losses. You know, like, I really, really, like, began to, like, just, like, take every single loss and like, what can I learn from this after that, you know, because that was a very, very pivotal moment where I learned like a ton from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm grateful for that experience. But yeah, it was weird, man. It just like wasn't. It was awkward. I didn't know what I was doing. And the guy was like, I don't want to answer that. Like it was like weird. It was weird. Yeah, it was awkward, bro.
Dude, I know that's why like I've been like every person I interview now or like I'm going to interview, I'm like, hey, is there anything you don't want spoken on?
And that's a great like thing to ask. Like,
You know?
I totally had an ego about it in the beginning.
Really?
100%. Yeah. Like I was like, I want this to be a fully natural conversation. I can't do any research. I was like, I don't know. It was silly.
Yeah.
Like I had a very silly mindset, but it's like now I understand that like, you know, this can be like natural without being like rehearsed, you know?
Yeah, because I feel like now looking back, I don't think I could do an interview without having at least questions, because the questions at least are like a guideline.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, because like sometimes I don't know
Which
about
is like what I learned now. Yeah.
Yeah, like sometimes my mind goes blank.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And especially like having like this ADHD, bro. Like I just be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
No, I feel it.
You know what I mean? But no, I feel that it pissed me off because I had this guest that I'm not having on anymore, because solely based on the script, like we needed a question. He's like, oh, I need the questions. My manager needs the questions. My manager needs to look.
Nah.
Oh, okay. Here's my thing. I get that.
That's just not a conversation. That's just that. I mean, that is so strictly interview based. Like that's not what I'm interested in doing.
And that's not what this platform's about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it kind of came down to, he was like, well, I don't want you to feel like I'm making you ask me questions. I'm like, or telling you what to ask me. I'm like, but you are. And then his manager had to be there in order to do it. And then his manager's always in LA. And my thing was like, I took that one with a little bit of ego. I was like, well, what do you take me for, bro? Like, if you looked at my content, this is, anyone that looks at this is it's a lighthearted podcast. It's not that, I'm not no jumper, bro. I'm not here to get you canceled.
Yeah.
You know? And I told him, I was like, bro, I would never put you in a bad light or ask you stuff to put you and your career in a bad light. And I told him too, I was like, look, because it went from 3 different ways. It went from first, the manager needs to see the script. Yeah. Fine. I accommodated. Then after that, because this has been like for a couple months in the making, trying to go back and forth about it, right? And then after that, he came at me. He was like, hey, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just do really lax, really lightweight, and then send the edited version to my management, and then anything they don't like, we can take out. Fuck it. Cool. And then he's like, well, let's just do it that way. And then now it's back to, oh, actually, I can't schedule it until I have this. I was like, honestly, bro, there's too many loops to jump through. Yeah. Like, there's so many other talented people out here that people could probably benefit from. Yeah, exactly.
I've kind of learned that too. It's like interviews like that, they're going to take years and years and years to figure out and get set up. And like, I'm not in the business doing those anymore. I'm not interested in that, because there's so many people that like want to be on the platform, that like reach out to be on the platform, that like deserve to be on it, that I'd rather talk to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I forgot what tangent we were going on with that, but the fuck were we talking about with that? All right, another transitional thing that I feel like deserves justice. The Clover Band. Oh shit! I was saving that one. What?
My guys.
Talk to me a little bit about that. The formation. Just give me a little story on that.
I played music growing up. My whole life I've played music, and
being a drummer and stuff.
Yeah. And I felt like when I really got into AboveTheBridge and started doing that, I kind of fell out of love with lost touch with like what my introduction to like being involved in music originally, and that was playing shows and like making music and songwriting and playing drums, and that was something that I was very happy to get back into. So I mean, like over the summer, like, because I've never stopped playing. I've always played. I've played for artists here and there, you know, played whenever. But so me and David and Gabe, so the guitarist of that band, and the guitarist and vocalist and the bassist, and me, we have like played together since we were like 12 years old. Shut up. Like, yeah. Like we've like played in garages in Concord and Clayton since we were like little kids. Like, because we went to middle school together and high school together. So I've known those guys forever. Oh, damn. And yeah, and we we'd done it like for forever. So it was like eventually we were just like, we got together over like this last summer. So like over like kind of like a year ago now, and we were like, oh, let's just like jam, because you know we're all in the area and we miss playing together or whatever, right? Yeah. So we got together, we jammed, and like David had come with like some songs that he'd written and like some stuff that would work on. He was like, hey, like you guys want to try to write on some of these? And we're like, yeah. So we were kind of just jamming, and it just felt right, like immediately. Okay. And we're like, okay, and it was weird because it was like, it could have been a case like dude, like we've been like playing together and like bullshitting for like 8 years. There was at any point in those 8 years we could have decided to like actually play shows and actually gig and like actually take this kind of seriously, but like I don't know, it just felt right. It was like, okay, finally, like we all have the time, space, and we can kind of do this now. So we did that, and I was very it's been so fun, man. Like to be on that side of the coin again has made me like fall back in love with like why I fell in love with this in the first place. And it's been cool because it's like I feel like I am a musician again, which I really missed, you know?
Yeah. So how do you manage that though? Because you're doing so much above the bridge stuff. How do you even manage to practice and then do the shows with them?
With a will and a way. I mean, like practicing regularly doesn't really happen too much anymore because like
Really?
I'm in LA and they're in the Bay. But you know, we just gig and like whenever we're gigging, we're practicing and it's like we try to prioritize and it's like we're getting ready to record a record soon.
No shit.
Yeah, which I'm really excited
that's
about.
dope.
Thanks, bro.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I'm very excited. So we're getting ready to record our debut and we just pretty much manage. Like we just like kind of look in front of us and we're like, okay, what's our priority for the next 3 months? Is it like playing as many shows as we can, or is it like recording or writing or whatever? So it's like, I mean, if it's playing, like we just set out, we're like, okay, we have like, you know, we can play these shows and we'll just make it work. We'll make the commute work. It's a lot to manage, but I really force myself to prioritize it.
Really?
Because I don't want to like forget like why I fell in love with this in the first place. And I love it, man. I just love performing. I love playing live. Like I don't think I'll ever get over the feeling of like playing with those guys. It's so fun.
Would you consider that like your hobby then?
Yeah, for the most part.
For the most part.
For the most part, like I would love if something happened with it. But for the most part, it is like a fun thing.
Because like obviously Above the Bridge is your baby type shit. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So like for them is the Clover Band like their baby, like that's what they're going for? Or is it all like kind of like your guys' hobby that you guys just do?
For them, yeah, a bit more. And it's not like it's not for me, but it's just like I would love a place where like Above the Bridge became like a thing where like I was working on this like every single day or Clover rather. Clover was a thing where like I was working on it every single day and like it's a big part of my life. But I'm just kind of like seeing where it goes right now. You know, it's like I need to like put Above the Bridge first and like Clover is like the second thing for me right now, which is really fun because
That's a cool little side quest, bro.
Yeah, man.
That's a little side quest in itself.
I think I didn't have any side quests for a while. Like it was literally just like Above the Bridge 24/7, 365 all the time. And I never like had room to like pursue or do anything else. So I'm really happy that I kind of got back to that.
That kind of goes back into like you finding your own personal time because I know you always like you talk about trying to find something else that's not music because your life always revolves around music. How are you doing with that?
I've gotten better with it. I've been like recently now that I'm kind of like, and the hard part about that, and I'm sure you relate to this, is like when you're like actively pursuing a creative passion and then also working a normal job, there really isn't time for much else. No,
there's not.
Yeah, like those like are two gigantic things that consume your mind. So it's like I have kind of been able now that like I can work finally. I can like do creative stuff like almost full time. Yeah. I've been able to kind of like structure my days in a way that like allows me to kind of give myself a bit more leeway. So it's like I've been trying to do like 8-hour days creatively. So before it was kind of an issue. Like before I'd like wake up and I would just work till I fell asleep. And I did that for years.
Yeah.
And I mean that you know that's great.
But I've also felt it's a healthy obsession.
It's a healthy obsession until it's not.
Then I could ask how have you found that that couldn't be healthy?
When the only source of validation for what you're creating becomes the numbers, and not the love.
Okay.
And then and
that's
you're,
real.
Yeah, and you're no longer doing it for like, oh, I love this. I'm in love with this. Like I want this to grow. Like I'm passionate about this. I want this to help people. And you begin doing it because it feels like a job. And then at that point, what is like why is that different than sitting in a corporate job in an office in a 9 to 5 and doing nothing?
No, that's real.
Like why is it different at that point? You know. Yeah. So it's like, and also like, you have to experience to create. You know, like I for a long time wasn't experiencing anything. Yeah. It's like what was I going to talk about in interviews? Like other interviews I had done. You know what I mean? Like I needed to like remember what it was like to like be creative and like remember what it was like to like be a human being and like go out and experience. So now I'm kind of working like 8-hour days.
That's good.
Creatively, which is nice because like I have a studio and it feels more like a job. So like, you know, I'll wake up and it's like if I'll wake up and I'll go to the gym and I'll work out and I'll work on my physical first and then it's like
do you do that like for example like the exercise of riding your bike? Yeah. Do you still manage to find time to ever do that?
I mean I work out 5 days a week right now and I'm very happy about that. Yeah, I've been getting way more into it recently. Really? The past like couple months I've been getting way more into it.
Dude, yeah. I'm literally a fucking opposite because for a while like my life revolved around like fitness and stuff like that. Yeah. Prior to the like all of this, and now I'm like, fuck, I don't have time. I don't feel like I have time to go back to the gym.
Never get in the mindset of like feeling like you don't have time for anything that matters. Because I felt I did that for so long, and then it was like I began to understand patience and where I was going, and now it's like I have so much self belief in myself that like it's not like a will this work thing. It's like a when will this work thing for me. That makes sense. And like that allows me to be a lot more forgiving on myself and do things like prioritize my physical. So like, you know, so pretty much like my day right now is like I'll wake up, I'll go work out, And then it's like after that, I'm putting in my 8 hours in the studio. And then it's like after that, it's like I'll go hoop, or I'll go for a run, or I'll go hike, or I'll go like read in my backyard, or I'll go just like make dinner and watch a movie by myself, or like I'll go out with a friend. It's like I'm now allowing myself time to be a human being again. And that was something that I for a long time didn't prioritize, and I don't think there's any excuse to not do that.
Yeah.
Like I don't really subscribe to the whole theory that like you have to do what you're doing 24/7 365 in order to be somewhat successful, because like I did that. I did that for a long time, and it's like that's not what is going to make you successful. Learning enough to where you understand what it is that you're trying to do and understand the ins and outs of the craft to the degree at which you can do something so efficiently and so in the right manner that like you're doing it at an elite level, that is what will make you stay.
That makes sense.
That's like how you'll have staying power. It's like putting it in your life in a way where it makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Because I feel like for me, I haven't really got to like the level of like where it's all I do.
It's so hard, yeah.
You know, obviously because I'm just starting all of this too, and your pod has also helped me realize that like it's okay to fall in love with the journey. Like, and I fell in love with the journey. You know what I mean? I'm okay that we only have 173 subs. Like, it's beautiful because I know a couple years from now when we do have like 10K subs or whatever, I'm gonna look back like, damn, like these was the ages.
Yeah,
like, this was the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. That's how I think about like. I mean, not that like I'm way bigger than like that now, but like I think back about like the times where like there was 1 month where I did 24 interviews in a month, and that was like and that was
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. We're doing like 2 a day, and it was like, I mean, keep in mind I grew up in Concord, which is like 25 minutes from the city.
Yeah.
So like literally my life was drive to the city, some random location, and then like go post up, do an hour-long setup, and then like and then after that like do the interview, like take the setup down, and then drive back and do it all again.
But I bet it was also fun though.
Oh, it was so
because
fun,
those were the times where it's like you were enjoying actually doing all of this.
That's what I mean. Like I look back at my life at that period of time, and it's so like now it's so nostalgic to me.
Yeah.
Because it's like when I realized like what I was doing was bigger than myself. It was like the first time I realized that it was like it had reach and there was a community being built around it.
Yeah.
That was also around the time of the first show, and it was like that was probably Music Matters episode like 40 to like 65 or like 40 to 70 was a very pivotal era.
Yeah.
It was like we were going wherever. Like I was doing interviews on top of cars, dude, in parks.
The one that you did next to the bridge.
Yeah, dude.
You should do some more of those.
I want to, dude. I want to. Like having a studio is a blessing and it curse because like it makes everything so easy. But it's like, I miss the days where like the shit was so like rugged and like rowdy and like we would go and we do interviews on top of like literally I interviewed Mir on top of on top of a car in a random street in the Fillmore. Like I interviewed like P Baby in a park. Like I interviewed what are some other crazy ones? Yeah, I did Rago Cray like at the Marin Headlands on top of the Golden Gate Bridge. Like
that was a good one.
Yeah,
I really like that one. That guy had an interesting story in itself.
He does, yeah.
You know,
like I've interviewed people at every dirty, grimy studio in the Bay Area, like every basement, every attic. But it's like it's all part of it, you know. And it's like I wouldn't appreciate the studio that I have now if it wasn't for those days. I miss those days, man. Like that month, that 1 month where we did 24 interviews was literally me and Mateo running around San Francisco and meeting as many people as possible. Yeah. And it was crazy. It felt like I was living in like a Yes Theory life. I didn't realize how crazy it was in the moment, but now I do. You know, now I look back at that time and I'm like, wow, this was a very formative period of my life.
No, literally. And I feel like for me and my editor definitely helps me like slow down in the sense of like not wanting to bite off more than I can chew. Yeah. You know, because I get so passionate about different ideas, but then I also have to look at in the relative space that I'm in right now. Yes. Like I was telling him that I want to do more outside interviews, right? Yeah. Like, for example, like, you know how Bobby Althoff has like those different things, right?
Bobby Althoff is sick.
That's just crazy.
She's hilarious.
That whole like interview style in its sense.
So funny.
It is. But I'm curious at how long is it going to last before it gets boring?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Who knows? Yeah.
Because like also like obviously she's like in like some hot water right now. I don't know.
Is she?
You didn't hear about that?
No, what happened?
Dude, I guess so. When she was talking, have you watched all majority of her interviews or no?
No, I've only watched the Drake one.
Okay, speaking fucking Drake, one, my editor's being stupid in the background. Okay, so for example,
she goes, "Am I your type?"
Yeah, dude, she took that.
He goes, I'd do it.
I was like,
Do
"Yo,
it.
do it."
Yeah.
But okay, so she got in some hot water because she was on a podcast, right? And she was talking about how she went to Lil Yachty's house. So she did an interview with Lil Yachty, and I guess like his hospitality was just cheeks, right?
Okay.
I guess he didn't like welcome her or whatever.
I mean, is that like part of her bit or?
No, I don't know. I guess that like she called him out on the pod, like mid interview, like, "Hey, so what's up with that?" I guess she walked into his big ass mansion and he didn't even greet her. He was like, the assistants did, and all this stuff, I guess, right? And then he got upset and he tweeted saying, "Look how energetic she gets when she's around her people," because it was like some white people. And I was like,
Whoa!
I did not even take it there. Like as a viewer, I was like, she's. But then on the other hand, I'm like, dude, like look at the, like, if you don't understand that it's a bit that she does,
Yeah, it's a bit.
it's like, come on, how, like really?
She's a comedian.
Yeah, like literally, like that's her thing, like
Yeah,
being
yeah.
awkward and this and that. So like when I seen it there, I was like, dude, come on, really? Like why'd you have to take it to that like lens? You know what I mean?
I feel it.
And then, for example, with the Drake one, it's not even on her
I
platform.
saw that, but part of me thought that was like a clout move too. Like part of me was like,
You
she
think
wants
so?
to like make this fake beef up with Drake.
I heard it was fucking Einstein over here. I think he was like, what if it's because like they clapped or whatever? Because I heard she's getting a divorce now.
Oh no way!
And I don't know if that came out that like she got it on with the Drizzy Drake.
I feel like it's all a bit.
I would. It's all from a marketing standpoint,
Yeah.
right? Where was I going with that though? All right, then last question, Dante. Last question. Same way. What would you say your overall arcing message would be to the world?
Bro, flipped it on me.
Yes. What would
The
yours
fact
be?
that I don't have a ready answer for this question is abhorrent because I've asked so many people it.
I'll give you a second.
Yeah, give me a second.
That's a big question in itself
Yeah.
to embark in.